2300 year Nandu. The guy pointed the remote control towards the air conditioner, as the room was very hot and sweat was pouring from his body. He touched the hem of his t-shirt and began to shake it to make him feel a little cooler, and at the same moment wondered why this junk broke, as luck would have it, and right now. Oh well, later you will need to call a specialist. He walked over to the water dispenser, standing on the chest of drawers near the TV, and put his hand on the red button, after which a small drop of water poured out of the cooler, and he looked at it questioningly. He immediately grabbed his head and shouted in anger that it was terrible and he was unlucky. Suddenly a notification arrived on his watch, and he noticed it with a face twisted in surprise. After touching the bracelet, a bright blue light began to come out and a system window appeared in front of him, which informed him of a reminder that there were 10 minutes left before the official start of the beta test of the game Flawless World. He almost forgot about it. 2300, most jobs were filled by robots. This led to massive unemployment, due to which people began to spend time in online games and rely on them to earn money. Therefore, the gaming industry has become the main economic pillar in the world. Against this backdrop, the largest company in the video game industry has merged to create a flawless game world. This game allows you to directly convert game currency through official platforms into the currency of the country you need. The guy sat down inside the gaming machine and continued his thoughts that, according to rumors, this is a Western game with elements of fantasy. He had already played similar games before, so it would be quite easy to start. The system reported that there was a countdown from 5 left until the start of the game. The guy thought, in this game he can be on the starting line with celebrities, and he has a chance to change his life with the help of this game. The report continued to approach one. He looked in front of him with a smile on his face, and realized that he had to take advantage of this opportunity because it was his destiny. Login to the game began, and the system told him welcome to the flawless world. When he found himself inside the virtual world, everything looked quite unusual. There were a lot of people around, as well as buildings that looked like castles and medieval houses. He looked around with delight and wondered, is this really a flawless world? Suddenly his bracelet glowed with a bright beam again, and the system reported its characteristics. His name is Zhu Chuan, Dragon Empire Country, gender male, level 1. No title, no skills either. There are 5 health. Each 1 point increases health by 10 points. Strength 5. Each 1 point increases attack power by 10. Agility 5. Each 1 point increases attack speed by 0.1, defense by 0.1/10. Magic. Every 1 point increases mana by 10, plus 50 new spells. His health and mana are 100 points, attack 50, defense 1. He looked at it with a grin and said out loud, it looks like everyone's stats are about the same. Someone suddenly shouted with delight that in this world everything was happening just like in reality. A guy standing nearby said that he tried to pinch himself and experienced pain. Opposite him stood a girl in a witch's hat and asked him a question. Are there any system tips for beginners? Why is this game so hardcore? Chuan decided to look around and took the first step. The system informed him that this was his first walk. Achievements, it all starts with the first step. After 1,000 steps, the title is unlocked. He is a wanderer. He walked down the street with his face twisted from fatigue, and the system asked him to unlock a god-level skill, a step of 1,000 miles. He took a deep breath of air, and the system said that this was his first deep breath. The skill was acquired, a long breath. He must take 1,000 deep breaths and unlock the Master Breathing achievement. He must also unlock the god-level skill, Kai Refinement. Suddenly, he stopped and wondered what was the matter. The system again informed him that this was his first shock. He paused, looked at the people around him because of this question. It seems that others don't have this. Maybe this is a bug, or is this a game mechanic? He shook his hand and asked himself if he could gain skills no matter what he did. The system reported that this was the first time he raised his hand, and he smiled and thought that this was really true. In this game, awakening a god-level skill is enough to change the life of an ordinary person. If he can get them, he will be incredibly lucky. Looks like you have to meet certain conditions to get them. He continued to walk in a rather strange guise, as he waved his arms among ordinary passers-by, and the system informed him that he had taken the second step and had 999 steps left. He took a deep breath, his internal organs strengthening everything until he received the skill of 999 breaths. He waved his hand. One of the surrounding guys whispered to another question, "What is happening to this guy? Is he really sick?" He whispered back to him that he should leave him alone. He just stood and looked at. But he decided not to finish this phrase and suggested that he better hurry up to find the monsters in order to increase the level because they should not lag behind. After some time, Chuan found himself outside the city and stopped and looked at the spacious forest. The system congratulated him for taking 1,000 steps and obtaining the divine step skill of 1,000 Lai. He put his hands on his belt and wondered, is there a field outside the city? It seems that no matter which direction he goes, there will be similar locations everywhere. The system congratulated him again for taking 1,000 breaths and obtaining the divine Kai refinement skill. He is also congratulated for doing a lot of arm swings and obtaining the divine kill and swing skill. Chuan drew attention to the system window that had popped up again and said that he had gained a lot of skills and wanted to look at it. The system window reported, step by 1,000 Lai, his speed will be increased, now he can increase his speed by 10 times. And he should improve the skill and his speed will increase. Clearing his Kai, his breath gives him experience points. Now he gains 10 experience points when he breathes. To improve a skill, an increase in strength is required. Swinging his Killen, his left arm became extremely powerful and each attack deals 10 times more damage. To improve your skill, you need to increase your basic stats. He paused and thought, this is worthy of being called divine. Each of them is very useful and besides, each of them gives a good buff. It's just some kind of gift. Thanks to the Kai Purification skill, he is already 2 levels higher than others. He has 4 skill points that can be randomly distributed, so it is better to add them to the kill and swing, so it will become even more powerful. It took time to gain the skills and most of the players have already left. He took another sharp step, so that his leg glowed with magical bright sparks, and he said that this was great, and so he would try to use the power of a step of 1,000 miles. Having tested this skill, he ran past the surrounding people with incredible speed, and they, frightened and dumbfounded, began to shout after him, "What was that? Looks like it was a man. Can a person really run that fast?" An hour later, he was running through a long clearing in the forest with the same ease and speed, when he suddenly stopped and said that he had now been running for an hour. Why is he still in this location? He ran about 30 kilometers and was ahead of everyone. The system reported that he felt tired for the first time, and he acquired the haste skill. When he feels tired 10 times, he can unlock the achievement, Sloth. He must unlock the divine skill, Fatigue Immunity. When he touched his bracelet, he stood up and said, "A new achievement has been discovered." This is quite strange. He wants to see what other players are saying on the game forum. Systems Reports, Game Forum. There were many messages there with various questions and other suggestions from various people. After reading this, he said that it seemed like there was nothing there. But something is definitely wrong, he is sure of it. But why did the creators install such a large safe zone here? This is not all for nothing. Maybe this is it. But without having time to guess, he said, no, it's too early to draw conclusions, and he will continue the research. Border of the City of Newcomers. He stopped near a reservoir and said, "Finally the field is over. This river should be the boundary of the safe zone." Across the river on the other side, he saw several animals, and the system reported that on the left, there was a deer of the dark forest, which had level 10, and so 240, health 500. Sleep Paralysis skill. Sleep Paralysis directs sleep paralysis at an enemy in front of it, dealing 200 points of damage per second, lasting 3 seconds. To the right of this creature is a mutated 4-horned bull, level 10, attack 300, health 400, ramming skill. The ram collides with the enemy in front of it, dealing 300 damage, impossible to dodge. His face expressed bewilderment, and he looked questioningly at the terrifying monsters. His teeth clenched, and he screamed out loud in horror, level 10. Something is clearly wrong here. Even after gaining divine skills, he would not be able to compete with them. It is difficult for ordinary players to even leave the safe zone. Is this really true? But before he could finish his guess, he looked at the side and said out loud, "In this game, there is a division between day and night. Even if the players spend the entire day leaving the safe zone, they will not be able to fight these monsters. And so, ordinary players encounter monsters for the first time. Most likely this will happen at night. And at night, the field is unlikely to be a safe zone. Knowing this gives him an undeniable advantage. Now he needs to do everything possible to be ready for this. The climate in a flawless world is almost identical to reality, and then the temperature at night will drop, especially near the river. Therefore, the primary task is to collect as much firewood as possible, and you also need to build a shelter. He found a weapon among the bushes and said that it was luck. The system reported that he had found a dull axe. He raised the axe up and said, maybe there is something useful here, and he will look for it while he collects firewood. The system windows continued to pop up in front of his face again and reported that he had found a flint stone left behind by the goblins. He found moldy bread that could poison him. He also found an item in the wild, earning the treasure hunter achievement. He must find 5 items in the wild, and he can unlock the title treasure hunter. He will gain the divine skill of Lunma art. Lunma's art has a divine category. In the wild, he will receive clues with which he can find hidden objects. In his hands behind him were many found objects. He said that he had just found another hemp rope and an empty vessel to receive the title. This is simply a wonderful skill thanks to which he will not miss a single treasure. The system should be allowed to see what treasures are hidden in this forest. He closed his eyes in anticipation, and a rather large magic circle appeared around him, which began to spread throughout the forest, and he said, well, it looks like there are no hidden treasures in this forest. Oh well, he needs to find a place to camp first. He turned around and went in an unknown direction to search. After some time, he approached a fairly large rock and stopped in the shadows, put his hands on his belt, and said that this place was suitable and there was a source of water nearby. He urgently needs to sharpen this axe he found. After this conclusion, he noticed another rock with a sharp edge not far from him and, coming closer to it, began to sharpen the weapon. The system reported that this was the first time he sharpened a weapon. Obtain the Sharpening Master achievement. After he sharpens a weapon 100 times, he will be able to unlock the Sharpener title. He must obtain the divine skill of Sublimated Forging. Sublimated Forging, category Divine, thanks to their skill, durability, strength, and power will increase, and there is also a high probability of being transformed into a weapon. With this skill, he can completely change his equipment. Having sharpened his weapon many times, 10 minutes later he picked it up with a smile on his face, and the system reported that there was a new axe in front of him. Metal, Black Iron. Equipment level 1, attack power plus 10, used for cutting down trees, not effective against humans. A sharpened axe and attack power increases. If it weren't for the lack of time, he would have sharpened it properly. But his work is not waiting for him, and he needs to go get firewood. He entered the forest and approached one of the trees, saying that it looked quite strong, so he would definitely use it for construction. He swung his weapon sharply and cut it with incredible ease, and the tree fell straight to the ground, and he widened his mouth in surprise, dumbfounded, after which he brought the axe closer to himself and, examining it carefully, wondered whether this object was really so sharp. The system reported that he cut down a tree for the first time and received the Lumberjack achievement. There is also a hint for it. He must cut down 100 trees and get the title of Crazy Lumberjack. He will gain the divine skill of Landscape Designer and will be able to dig up any tree and replant it. He should plant it right and it will bloom again. He stroked his chin with a thoughtful expression and wondered if he wanted him to cut down 100 trees. He doesn't need that much, so he'll leave it at that. He only found hemp rope and needs to find some more vines. The system reported that he had obtained a God-level Foundry Master skill. As a Foundry Master, he can easily make whatever he needs as long as he has the necessary materials. He must create first-class things. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with his hand and said that he had finished everything, and now he had a place to sleep. A hut appeared in front of him, which he built himself, and now he has a roof over his head. After that, he came closer to his building and began to cut the ropes, saying that he still had so many materials left and his skill was just right for him. He can just use these leftovers to do something necessary. After some time, it got dark outside, he found himself inside his building, removed his bangs from his forehead, and the system informed him, Rattan Armor, Bronze Rank, Level 1, Protection plus 10. Very durable rattan armor, provides protection from physical damage. Disadvantages, not effective against fire. He said that there should be problems with this, and the system reported a wooden spear, rank bronze, level 1, attack power plus 50, a sharpened wooden spear, not inferior in power to an iron spear. Disadvantages, breaks easily. Suddenly, he felt something wrong on the side of him and sharply turned his head, grabbed the spear, and jumped to his feet with wariness, contorting his face in fear. The system reported that he was attacked and his health was -1 point. Dark energy streams appeared near him, and he said that someone was coming towards him, after which he looked into the distance and was dumbfounded by the surprise of this turn of events. Suddenly, right in front of his face, Streams of energy forces began to spread more and more, and his health decreased by 1 point every second. The system reported that he was being attacked by dark waves, and he must find fire as soon as possible. He swung his spear once with incredible force and said that in a couple of seconds he had already lost several tens of his health. And now he needs to quickly light the fire. Having swung his spear, he was able to light a fire under his feet, and the fire began to spread within certain limits. He smiled, put the spear on the ground, and tiredly brushed away his hair, and said that now everything was fine with him, and he was in a safe zone where there really was something. It was good that he was prepared. The system reported that he lit a fire for the first time, and received the achievement of making fire. He was surprised by this, and asked again, "What? Will he get the skill again?" The system window informed that if the fire illuminates him for more than 10 minutes, he will receive the title of Lord of Fire. He should unlock the fire control skill. The skill level is divine. Fire boils in his body, and he can use fire magic, and the strength of this will depend on the amount of mana he uses. He looked at his hands and wondered, attack skill. Finally, all the previous skills were only auxiliary. Now he has a full set. He created a bright fire in his hand and threw it in the opposite direction, saying that the fireball takes 10 units of mana and its maximum now is 130 units. This means that he can release 13 of these balls. Hitting the nearest stone with a fireball, he created a bright fiery explosion and was very surprised by this, shouting that this ball was incredibly terrifying and perhaps this skill would now be his trump card. Sitting down by the fire, he realized that he couldn't relax because something told him that at night, the safe zone was more dangerous than the cold waves. He wants to see how other players are doing. He opened the system window, which he reported about the forum. Player wrote a message, "Guys, he walked north all day and got to some forest, but the path is blocked by a river, and on the other side there are animals of level 10 and higher, through which it is impossible past thee." Another player writes that in the west everything is the same, and they stopped here in a small group. A third reports that the cold waves continuously cause damage, and someone also writes that the game is too realistic, and now he is frozen and his whole body is numb from the cold. He didn't see any respawn points. Something doesn't add up. Chuan thought, it seems they have not advanced much further than him. It is a safe zone, and therefore, no matter which direction a person goes, the situation will not be much different. This means that the main task for today is to get out of here. By the way, he also didn't notice the respawn points. Does this mean that after the death of a player, it is impossible to be reborn here? He clicked on the system window, and his eyes widened in fear. The system reported the name is Goblin, health 130, defense 1. Goblin, dwelling in darkness, origin unknown, likes to attack at night. He wondered what was going on, Goblin. So even inside the safe zone, there are monsters. Looking to the side, lost in thought, he heard some sounds behind him and suddenly turned around and wondered what the noise was there. Suddenly, behind his back, a huge goblin began to attack him, which suddenly jumped out of the bushes and from which a lot of stones appeared and some foliage flew up. The goblin growled loudly at him, but Chuan managed to orient himself and defend himself by pulling out a spear and plunging it straight into the monster's chest. He shouted for this creature to receive this blow from him. The goblin's blood splashed everywhere, and he screamed loudly in pain and horror, after which he died on the spot. The system reported that he killed a goblin, a bat. His level has been raised to level 4. Chuan said that he almost fell into the clutches of this creature. Now he smells a disgusting smell. Are even such details worked out in the game? The system reports that he defeated the monster for the first time. They received the achievement Assassin. He must kill 10 monsters to receive the title of fighter and gain the killing skill. Assassination, skill level, divine. He develops a desire to kill in his heart, and every time he kills, he can permanently gain a certain power and restore 0% of the damage he caused. The strength at the moment is 1. For his own safety, he brought the fire towards the goblin and pointed it at the destroyed body of this creature, and said that he would probably set it on fire. The goblin suddenly opened its eyes and jumped to its feet and began to run in a circle, waving its limbs and screaming. The goblin continued to squirm in horror and move. Chuan looked at this in fear and asked what was going on. The goblin increased in size several times and quietly growled in a trembling voice. After this, the creature opened its mouth and began to beg him for salvation, stretching out her hand to him. Chuan backed away, clenched his teeth, and without having time to do anything, The goblin fell to the ground head down and agreed that this should have been done to him, after which he fell silent. Chuan looked at it and wondered, did it burn and turn into a human? The system reported that he had revealed the goblin's secret. The quest is activated, he must catch one goblin alive. The number of goblins in the darkness is currently 99,999. Did he accidentally activate a hidden quest? Does this mean we need to capture one goblin? Chuan picked up another spear and realized that of course there are a lot of them. But they are not that strong, and although they can attack first, there is no time to think, and if he is slow, he can ruin this quest. Grabbing his guns, he went in an unknown direction and increasing his steps. The system informed him, Lord of Fire, he has resistance to damage from cold waves, and also 50% resistance to ice-cold magic. The number of goblin is 31,444. The title comes with special characteristics. What a stroke of luck. He accelerated even more and began to run past many frightened and attacked people, as well as goblins, and realized that now was not the time to rejoice, and he needed to hurry as soon as possible. One of the goblins opened its mouth and exhaled. The creature had its limbs tied around a huge block of stone. One of the players looked at it and said that this was a disgusting creature, and it was necessary to kill it as soon as possible. The girl confirmed these words and added that this is a small and ugly goblin, from which an unpleasant smell also emanates. A man with a large club in his hands began to approach the goblin and swung at it with incredible force. The goblin's face showed fear, as well as fatigue, when suddenly someone shouted at the man to stop. It was Chuan who stood up for the goblin, and the system informed him that he fought with a man for the first time with a club and received the achievement of a lucky fighter. He must fight a person 10 times to receive the title of king among fighters and gain the skill of master of wrestling. With his spear, he cut the guy's club, which flew off in the other direction. The guy grabbed his beaten, reddened hand and shouted to him, what was he doing? His friends came to his defense and took a defensive position, surrounding the guy. Chuan straightened up and, scratching the back of his head in bewilderment, apologized to him and asked again, could they give him this goblin? He really needs a living goblin. If they agree, he will give his armor in exchange. The guy noticed his appearance and realized that his armor was made of bronze. After that, he pointed his finger at the goblin and said that this can be done, only they beat the goblin almost to death and lost a lot of blood, so he thinks that this creature does not have much time left. The goblin looked in front of him with a terrifying and bloody look, and Chuan realized, yes, he won't last until the morning. After that, he waved to his new acquaintances and thanked them. They looked at each other in bewilderment, and one of the girls said that he was quite strange. Why did he need a living goblin? The other girl smiled and replied, yes, it's quite strange, but he is handsome. A moment later, they heard an incredibly loud scream and turned behind them, when suddenly they saw in front of them how the goblin attacked their friend and stuck his teeth into his head. Both girls fell to the ground in fear and screamed, what's going on? Their friend was pinned to the ground and destroyed by the goblin who began to approach them. The girls screamed in fear that there was no need to do this, trying to crawl towards the forest very slowly. Loud noises were heard nearby, and a moment later the system showed some messages from the players. Someone said, guys, it seems they give a lot of experience for killing a goblin, but there aren't many of them left. The other replies that anyone can understand this, he himself has already climbed them well, but their corpses stink terribly. The third player said that he had come across a foreign guy, and he needed a live goblin. He even wanted to give bronze armor for him. Another was surprised by this, and said that it was necessary to change it. Such armor is more expensive than some monsters. Is he completely stupid? Another guy replied that he had already killed the goblin when this guy approached him. He answered him that he was approaching him too. He's talking about such a handsome guy with a club, he answered with consent. Chuan read these messages and shook his head and wondered, maybe after killing the goblin he began to smell something, and now they are avoiding him. It seems he didn't have time. What can I say? This is an impeccable world. There are a lot of players here, and therefore the monsters are killed quite quickly. The system said a goblin has been detected. He should go ahead to save it. The remaining number of goblins is 0. The remaining number of goblins changed to 1, and this surprised him, which is why he asked again, what? Has the system created another goblin? He doesn't know what happened, but he's not going to let this chance pass. After these words, he decided to run in an unknown direction with incredible speed, and suddenly someone shouted, is it a goblin? The goblin was among a group of guys who tried to fight this creature, the 3 of them attacking it, but the goblin was swinging with a tree trunk, and no one understood. Was it really the boss? Why is this goblin so huge? This goblin is a mutant goblin, level 3, rated state, health 400, strength 200, skills none. The goblin began to turn into an even larger one, and was illuminated with a green shimmering light. People screamed. The berserker stage was over. Now, they should act. How terrible was that? Chuan rushed past them at high speed, with which he abruptly grabbed the goblin with a rope and tied it up, after which he stopped next to him and said with a grin, "Let the others forgive him, but he needs this goblin." Those around him started shouting at him, "No, where did he get this? Does he want to fight? He must leave this and get out of here, otherwise they won't vouch for themselves." Chuan looked more seriously towards the guys and screamed. He had already said that he needed this goblin. The guys got angry and screamed, "He wants to steal their monster." Guys, they should take it together. 3 guys attacked Chuan, who stood motionless, and after strong blows to his body, his health did not decrease by more than 1 point. He didn't even move, and the guys shouted in surprise, "What happened? Why doesn't his health decrease? What a horror. He's level 5. How did he even do it?" One of the guys said that he heard that someone took the bronze armor in exchange for the goblin. Is that him? The other shouted back at him, "Stop talking. They need to get out of here as quickly as possible." They moved some distance away from the Chuan, and the guy in the red shirt shouted to the other to prepare to attack, because he was coming. Chuan attacked all his opponents in one sharp movement, continuing to defeat the goblin in his chains, in whose eyes tears appeared from Chuan's incredible speed. The guy in the red shirt grabbed his head after the blow and tremblingly wondered if maybe they would catch up with him. Another said, "He killed the leader with 1 blow. He wouldn't risk it like that." System reported, official forum, first comment. Someone wrote, "Guys, a cruel person just robbed the Rangers Guild building." The other grinned and said, "Moreover, all the guild members were there, and he saw how he killed them armed with a spear. He killed the guild leader and selected members with 1 blow. And it also has such high defense that no one can even break through it. What is the name of this deity?" He didn't have time to notice. He was moving so fast. Chuan, meanwhile, sat near his built structure and wondered what. The reward for this mission is gear? The system reports that it congratulates him on completing the mission, and he has received the title of Savior. He received a lot of experience points and also a new level. Received equipment: Sharp Iron World, Dungeon Guardian Garda, Warrior Necklace. Guardian's Guard Dungeon, Rare Silver, Special Item. Required level 5, Strength and Defense plus 15, Nameless Defender of the Dungeon Shaft, always standing at the entrance of the dungeon. Rarity, Silver Special Item, required level 5, Intelligence plus 40. The necklace was specially made for adventurers and restores 1% of points per second. Rarity, Bronze, Excellent, required level 3, Attack plus 110, very sharp sword from the dungeon shaft. Chuan read these messages and said, "The characteristics are slightly better than his equipment. Fortunately, he did not waste time polishing low-level equipment." He looked at the goblin tied to a wooden post and said, "So, what use is this creature to him now? After yesterday's berserk stage, this goblin is so weak. No, there must be some other secrets hidden. Judging by the past incident, these goblins are formed from people. Then who are the people who become a goblin?" He was a lone player and still didn't have enough information, so he decided to see what other players were saying. Having opened the system window, he wondered why all the posts were discussing him. He just stole the monsters, so why isn't there any useful information there? Suddenly he came across some information and read all the available comments about how one of the players yesterday with his friends went separately because the other side of the group could not see the fire, and he believes that he froze to death. Another added, "But the day had already arrived, and it should have been a general Sunday long ago." Even if it wasn't Sunday, the user can send messages even to the dead. But he did not receive a single message from him. Maybe he's sleeping. Ultimately, after playing for a long time, many people maintain healthy sleep habits, although they may not sleep at all, thanks to the supply of nutritional fluid in the gaming capsule. Incredible! His friend usually writes to him, and he wrote to him when he was leaving, but he still hasn't answered him. Chuan, after reading these comments, thought that many wrote comments that their partners were missing, and this is not a coincidence. Is it possible that in this game you cannot be reborn after death? He saw a video in the comments where it was reported that frozen to death, and the players as ordered look exactly like this. I reached out to this video and wondered what it was. It seems he has never seen this before. Is this related to player deaths? He needs to take a look at this. Someone shouted, "Buddy, A friend froze to death due to the cold snap. Look, it turned out what happened to his body when he came to visit him. It seems that everyone who died from the cold snap last night is now frozen like this and for some reason can't speak. But now he doesn't know how to revive them. The guy continued, near the frozen friend and looking at his reflection, when suddenly the guy behind him opened his bright red eyes, while he continued to say that when he finds the craftsmen, they will break all the ice. Suddenly, a monster that was formed from a man attacked the guy from behind. When he turned back out of curiosity, why did he get goosebumps down his spine? The monster growled loudly at him, and Chuan naturally screamed his teeth in horror. Is this really the player's corpse? But why does he attack other players? Behind him was the same tall, terrifying monster, whose skin was blue, and who uttered some exclamations as it passed through the bushes towards him. Chuan turned to this, looked around carefully, and the system reported that there was a special mutated ice walker. Level 5, mana 500, health 500, attack power 500. Souls sealed by frost from another world have lost their minds and attack all visible creatures and are afraid of underground spiritual sources. And is this the only one here? Chuan pulled the sword out of its sheath, and the system said, "Kill in hand." He swung the ball sharply and destroyed the monster, cutting its neck. A large stream of blood spilled onto the ground, and Chuan, who stood majestically over the destroyed body of the monster and watched this, listened to the system message that he had killed a special monster and received many experience points. He also saved the warrior and received 10 luck points from him. The warrior who reappeared in this world examined his limbs and wondered if he had really been reborn. The system says the enemy gains 50% more experience for 10 days, after which he will receive a bonus based on that amount. Chuan looked at the ground and asked, "Are zombies players too? Kill zombies and revive players with a reward?" Now, Kai cultivation doesn't give him much experience, and it's time to save a couple of players and make them work for him. The system again showed several comments and players who were discussing, "These level 5 zombies are so unusual. How should you fight them?" Someone advised the commentator to run away. Another wrote a question, "Where is the system memo on the location of underground spiritual sources?" The fourth commenter wrote that he had been digging for half a day, but still had not found a single spiritual source. Instead, he dug up the bronze weapon and is no longer afraid of zombies. Unexpectedly, there are a lot of treasures underground in the safe zones. One of the players told the guys that in the center of the square, there are places of rebirth and his friends have returned. The other answered that he was in the safe zone and had just returned after being frozen. Looking at us last night, he clearly remembers how the blood coagulated, then he lost consciousness. The feeling of death was so realistic that it was even unbearable to endure. Additional comments after the rebirth, he lost a lot of experience points, as if his body was empty. Advice to everyone, if they can, then they don't need to die. The guy in the red shirt looked at the sky and wondered what it was. After that, he looked at his feet and saw how the stairs began to shake and emit bright rays of light, which also alerted him, and he shouted to the others to look at the fact that something had opened. Is this a hidden dungeon? The system suggested that the underground palace was open. People shouted that it was amazing. The hidden level had just been reborn. It seems they are not such losers. Some guys came to this barrier and wondered why it didn't let them in. Is the hidden level specially prepared for revived players? So is the survivor unlucky? That's right, not only were zombies chasing them, but they also couldn't enter the dungeon. The leader must forget the open level. They should go kill zombies together. One of the guys hurriedly ran up to the surrounding guys and said that he had just seen someone kill a zombie, and this zombie became a player and disappeared. These people are so reborn. The zombie has a lot of experience points, and he thinks that they immediately increase from level 2 to 4. He also heard that half of the experience of revived players can be absorbed within 10 days, and it would be nice to invite someone else with him, wouldn't it? One of the guys raised his sword high and shouted that he didn't care about the hidden level and was offering to kill zombies. The guy standing next to him and the girl picked up his idea and happily also raised their hands, agreeing with him and his proposal. One of the guys who was digging something in the lawn nearby with a shovel grinned and said that this was arrogance. The game is definitely not so simple, and it cannot be that the dead get more than the living. It's better for him to dig some more and look for other entrances. Not to mention that there are a lot of treasures underground. Why not do it? A few hours later, Chuan again plunged his sword into one of the monsters and destroyed it, spilling a lot of blood. After that, he put his sword in place and said without any emotion expressed on his face that he had already killed about 100 of these monsters. A system window appeared in front of him and informed him that the underground palace was open and he should quickly enter it. He swiped the screen and looked at it more closely, after which he thought, although in general it is correct to follow the instructions of the system, apparently this is a service alert. Even the location says it's a trap. There must be no tutorial in this game after all. So why is the alert so detailed? First, it is better for him to return to camp and then understand this situation. After some time, he arrived at his main location and added wood to the fire. The goblin was still tied to one of the wooden pillars near his home and made a strange sound. Chuan sat down nearby on a bench he had created himself, looked at the ground, and thought that if we summarize what was happening, then firstly today no information was received about the goblin's secret. The mission interface still hasn't disappeared after completing this, and apparently it's a long-lasting mission. What if the conditions for completing this opening are the next mission? But today the day was well spent, and he not only did not understand the mechanics of death in the game, but also gained a lot of experience. The system reported that he received 10,000 from the player Shenmue. He received the same amount from Xiao Zhang twice, and thought that he needed to remember that the revived players had already entered the dungeon a long time ago. Why does he gain experience? No one has written anything on the forum for a long time. This dungeon is really quite problematic. Many lovely stars appeared in the sky around one shining brightly among the clouds. The goblin again let out a grunt, when suddenly bulges appeared on the body of this creature, and it screamed even louder, trying to escape, after which it uttered a request for help in a trembling voice. Chuan looked at him curiously, and saw a man begin to emerge from the goblin, who continued to ask for help several times, and said that he was a human. Chuan rose from his seat and looked at him in surprise, fully ready to help. Zhu Chuan unties the strangers from the tree, and the man, falling to the ground, coughs, and at the same time thank the good traveler for not killing him in the guise of a goblin. Chuan looks in surprise at the system window that appears, which says that this is a hidden mission called Mutation in the underground Palace of Faith. After looking at the other window and seeing that the mission description, objective, and reward were hidden, he wondered, did this trigger the next hidden mission? Good thing he didn't kill him. After standing up, he tells the man that he shouldn't thank him like that. But he is a little curious as to why he became a goblin. The stranger bows and announces his name is Kudor. He is an ordinary resident of Vera's underground palace. At first, Vera's underground palace was needed to attract brave men from different worlds. He doesn't know when it started, but the brave men stopped coming to them. The sacred flame in the temple also began to fade. After this flame finally went out, many residents turned into ice zombies because they could not stop the wave of frost and black fog. Chuan, after listening to him, begins to think again, so the underground palace is a village of beginners. But what is the situation there now? Zombies became not only NPCs, but also players. If the problem is in the game, then why don't the developers fix it? Kaidor adds that not many residents died at first, but even so, they had strong underground palace guards who could protect them. But when the cold wave became stronger, the guards also died. They had to open a sacred spring deep in the palace. But suddenly everyone who came from that source became goblins. Then the underground castle became a haven for zombies and goblins. Some goblins ran outside. Legends say that moonlight can remove any curse. Probably thanks to this, he returned to his previous appearance. Zhu Chuan, together with him, understands the look at the sky, where the bright moon really shines, and notes that the players who entered the underground palace were very unlucky. No wonder the forum is so quiet. Fortunately, he sensed it and did not go there. But why does the system offend players? This not normal. He had better be careful in the future. Unexpectedly, Kaidor grabs him by the hands and asks, hopefully, maybe the warrior wants to help them. All people will return to their former appearance when he enters the palace and lights the sacred fire. They will give him incredible treasures. As soon as he began to speak, an information window appeared next to Chuan, in which this sentence was written, accept the task. He adds that deep within the tombs are hidden class scrolls. If a warrior saves his friend, he will give him a scroll. But Zhu Chuan, pushing him away, mentally notes, no, he refuses. Then Kaidor reaches into the inner pocket of his clothes and notes that if the scroll is not enough for a respected brave man, maybe he would be interested in legendary level equipment. Handing over the luminous ring to Chuan Green, he exclaimed that if the warrior accepted the task, he would give it to him. The system immediately opens an information window, which says that this is the Ring of Lost Thunder. The rarity of this is at the gold level. that is, better. Required level is 10. Add 40 to Constitution, add 40 to Strength, add 40 to Dexterity, add 40 to Courage. The special effects of this ring is that it is a Thunder Lord ring. With this, the wearer will be immune to thunder damage in the underground palace. The skill of this is that it fires a lightning strike at enemies within 500 m and deals 600 points of damage, taking 1 second to recharge. After reading this, Chuan enthusiastically understands that this is truly golden equipment. It even has skills. It is known that in this game, bronze level equipment can gradually depreciate as the player levels up. But the value of gold equipment always remains. But unexpectedly, he smiles and thanks Kudor for his kindness. But he still asks for forgiveness but refuses. Leaving and waving his hand at him finally, he adds that the underground palace is very dangerous. He does not dare to enter there. It's late, the guy can stay and rest. In the morning, he will find another place. But Kaidor, standing in the darkness, began to mutate. His hands turned into terrible paws, and his skin turned green. Then he noted that if he doesn't want to, he won't force him. He'll just take his corpse there. With these words, he jumps on Chuan, but he quickly reacted, turns around, and, plunging his sword into the monster's body, notes out loud that the task was going somehow unusual, and this is already suspicious. Moreover, he did not hesitate and used the rarities to lure him into the underground palace. Love in its right mind will sense the catch. He must immediately say who he is and why he came here. Kudor, trying to squeeze Marana with both paws, exclaims through clenched teeth, "They all deserve to die. Souls from other worlds must become food for the gods." With these words, he falls to the ground, and several system windows immediately announce that the player has killed a mutated resident of the underground Palace of Faith and received experience points. He received the armor of an underground palace guard. He received a map on sheepskin. This is classified as a special item. He received a special item, the Ring of Lost Thunder. In the description of the armor and the guard of the underground palace, it is said that the rarity of this belongs to the silver category, that is, special. Required level 5. 500 is added to the health point, 20 is added to the defense. Chuan, having read this information and shaking off the armor he is already wearing, notes with satisfaction that the game really is not going according to the rules. For killing a quest NPC, you can get a lot of useful things, and he also raised the level to 7th. Afterwards, unfolding the scroll and looking at it, he asked out loud, "Is this a map of the underground palace?" He doesn't know what's going on inside, but in any case, he has nothing else to do today, so he'll take a break. In general, in the future he needs to pay a lot of attention to the system alert and what the NPCs say. When the next morning arrived, the system announced that the number of survivors had become known. Their number is 160, 307 people. Chuan, waking up, lying on the ground and rubbing his eyes, notes that after the open beta test of the game, there were about 5,600 million players. Now there are only about 100,000 survivors left. The system window also added that survivor awards have been issued. All players need to go to the safe zone in the central square. He, having heard this and looking at another system window with a map, raises it. Even though it may be a trap again, he still doesn't have enough information. There he will see other survivors. Perhaps this way he will be able to better understand the situation. After a while, when Chuan gets to the central square of the safe zone, there are already people there. Looking around, he notes that he has a slightly strange feeling when he opens the system to see such a huge number of players. It's stupid to gather everyone in one place. It must be a number from this safe zone. Safe zone 1000. There must be places here that are located in a similar way. Two people pay attention to him. A girl with purple hair and a red dress tusks and says with a smile, she didn't expect that there would be young people here. Another tall man of strong build, throwing a huge cleaver over his shoulder, notes that he is not from that family, is he? But Chuan passes by with contempt and notes that this blonde is not the heir of a large family. People from big families don't even look at him. He thought that all the idiots had already entered the underground palace yesterday, but it seems that not everyone dropped out. A system window suddenly appeared in the air, announcing to everyone that the safe zone for newcomers is 1000. The number of survivors is 200. The predicted number of survivors is 20. Players must kill their opponents ASAP. People reading this are wondering what is going on. Should they kill each other? But immediately those who took up arms and looked around warily appeared, rushed into battle shouting, "They are starting." Chuan, observing the bloodthirsty battle, notes that at first they placed about 100,000 people in the safe zone, now only 20 can survive. Were the first missions intended to reveal people? Suddenly a girl approaches him from behind and, swinging her sword, shouts that now is not the time to be surprised. But just as she wants to stab him, Chuan manages to return and deflect it. She approaches him and suggests that if they join forces, then he will see what happens. Well, when he pushes her away, the girl asks where the handsome guy is from. But Chuan apologizes and explains without comment. Then she again gets into a fighting pose and says okay, but she will immediately tell him that this game is very dangerous. She thinks he is pathetic, maybe he wants to unite. Chuan also prepares his weapon and clarifies he and she. At this moment he reflects, although he is confident in his strength, but in the end, he is alone. There are very few ways to get information here, so it is useful to team up with others. The girl points her hand back at the fighting man and explains that this is her brother, his name is Wu Zhen, and her name is Wu Mank. Then he introduces himself, Chuan. Mank immediately asks again, is that his name? Is he the same Chuan from Shanghai? He is surprised and asks again, does she know him? She replies that ordinary people may not know, but who from large families does not know. The Lin family, with an income of tens of billions, has an only daughter who did not marry him. He rejected a blessing that is not available to others. He is a daredevil. Chuan is embarrassed and points out that she doesn't need to remember the past. Wu Mank mentally notes with a yawn, he definitely deserves to be liked by Kinking. Chuan looked at Wu Zhen, who stood a little further away, having already dealt with the other players, and noted that it seems that the Wu brother and sister are unusual people. Finally, the system announces that there are 200 people left. He mentally exclaims again, there should be even more heirs of large families among the survivors. Well, almost immediately in another system window it notes, since no one has been killed for a long time, the system will automatically eliminate the person with the least total strength. Countdown 20 minutes. Immediately after this, lightning appears from the sky, shoots one of the players, and announces that there are 199 people left. A guy in a red cloak attacks a man with purple hair, causing him to scream furiously. The freak attacked him, but the blonde laughingly notes that now he is at level 4 and has full equipment. How will he fight with him? Chuan also becomes wary and quickly moves away from Wu Mank to a great distance. She sighs and clarifies, why does he suddenly run so far away? Does he think she will do the same to him as they do? But the next moment 2 players are running towards them and screaming for her to die. But Jen immediately reacts to this, hiding her behind his back and getting rid of the men with one swing of his cleaver. Chuan, seeing this, understands, with a blessing of so many skills, talents, and equipment, his attack power now barely reaches 610 points. This guy has at least 500 attack power or higher. Suddenly another man also jumps on him from behind, swinging an axe and shouting that he will kill him. Chuan clenched his teeth and realized things were bad. But Wu Zhen almost immediately grabs the attacker and, crushing his head, announces that he will save his life. Chuan asks in bewilderment why they should help him. He did not agree to unite with them. While Zhen is shaking the blood off his hand, Mank answers with a smile, and why should I save him? I'm just curious. Not everyone will give up hundreds of billions of dollars. Finally, the system announces that there are 20 people left. It congratulates respected warriors for passing and proving their strength. A bright yellow beam shoots down from the sky into a special round structure, and it adds, now it's time to choose your own path. Various creatures are visible in this beam, and Chuan notes, it seems that the selection is over. What will the system allow them to do now? It immediately announces the choice of hidden classes. No matter what game a person plays, his class always matters. Hidden classes are invaluable in a complete world. Due to the features of Complete World, players who receive a hidden class will be promoted in the game, and their real life will also change dramatically. A powerfully built man who has fought desperately raises his right hand and exclaims, he has won. He finally won. The system immediately announces that the winner is not Gumo, and now the hidden class will be issued. Then a rider with glowing eyes flies over his head on a large black animal resembling a panther. A black liquid flows straight from the animal, causing him to start screaming. But soon he completely takes on the look of a rider, and the animal that lands next to him welcomes his owner back into the darkness. The system explains that the hidden class is the Dark Knight. The special ability is that upon becoming a Dark Knight, the player gains immunity to dark magic. He also gets 4 companions. Its main characteristics have been increased. For each level, he will receive an additional 10 characteristic points. Woo-Mank watches him and notes out loud, "It seems that from this day on, everything will be different in the Gu family." The system window appears again, announcing that a second hidden class has been defined. A new object appears inside the yellow beam, and the system explains that this is a hidden class Thunder Giant. The special ability of this is that upon becoming a Thunder Giant, the player becomes immune to thunder magic and receives the blessing of the power of the Spirit of Thunder. The player's strength and physical characteristics are doubled. The attack will deal lightning damage. The player's damage is reduced by 30%. The player's attack power increases by 30%. Jen, seeing this, comes forward and decisively says he wants it. Looking around, he notices a guy in a purple vest nearby, and within a second he flies back, and the system window announces that the winner is Wu Zhen. A thunder giant immediately falls on top of him, causing the ground underneath to break and Zhen to groan in pain. But soon all the power of the giant passes to him, and when he returns to Woo-Mank, she excitedly asks, "Is he okay?" He, rubbing his bruised head, replies that he is fine, she doesn't have to worry. Chuan also observes this and concludes that it seems that in order to obtain a hidden class, he needs to fight not only with other players, but also feel inhuman pain. Clumps of violet energy begin to fly in the air, similar to a ghost. People seeing this are perplexed. What is this? This does not fit into any framework. When a skeleton with a scythe appears after the ghosts, the system explains that this is the hidden class Lord of the Dead. The special ability of this is that the player cannot die. Immunity to all magic of the dead. The player is the only living dead on the continent. Chuan reads this and wonders, is this class immortal? People at this moment run into the field of the beam's glow and begin to fight to get this class. A guy with red hair kills a man with a knife and laughs loudly, he will win. But suddenly another guy appears behind him, whom he knows has a knife in his throat. From a sly smile, he notes that in the end, the victory will belong to him. He is grateful to the stranger, but that he helped him get rid of the others. And while he laughs, the system announces that Whining is the winner. The reward has been determined. But unexpectedly, when the powers of the reward pass to him, Ning sees that his skin has literally begun to drain from him like oil. He immediately falls to the floor, screaming loudly in pain. Natalia System again announces a hidden class called Mixed Elf. The special ability of this is that the player has 2 lives, 2 special elements. Accordingly, the player is immune to the elements of light and darkness. The player will learn mixed magic that has special effects. Skill cooldown reduced by half. There's only one hidden class left. Mank heads towards the space illuminated by the corner and understands that the last one remains, and the others will definitely try to get it. She needs to take advantage of the opportunity. At this time, Zhen asks Zhu Chuan, why isn't he trying? He explains that he doesn't need it. He doesn't like being a magician. Plus, there should definitely be other opportunities to get a hidden class in the future. But at the same time, he thinks, in fact, it seems to him that these hidden classes are somehow strange. He has a feeling that you who received the hidden classes are too sane, as if they were possessed by a strange spirit. Perhaps this is one of the traps of the systems. For now, he needs to improve his skills and talents. It will be no worse than hidden classes, so for now he has no need to fight. Woo-Mank suddenly attacks 2 people at the edge of the beam and shouts that she says goodbye to them. With one blow, she knocks them out, throwing them high into the air. The system immediately announces that the reward has been determined. Now everyone must go to the underground lobby. A staircase appears in the ground leading down. When all players descend into a long corridor, a system window is added that at the spawn point, hidden classes can choose 2 companions. The companion receives the same special class as the coffin, but cannot betray or attack it. When the player is damaged, the companion's health points will be sacrificed. Candidates for companions are those who could not win the fight for the hidden class. They look around and clarify, do they still have the opportunity to get a special class? And if the owner does not die, then it's okay if they sacrifice their health. The kidnapper of the dead, Wai Ming, looking at these 2 guys, chuckles slyly and asks, who should he choose as a servant? The guy in the blue shirt comes forward and exclaims he must choose him. They're friends. But Ning points his finger at 2 young people behind and asks them to come up. His friend at this time asks in shock what? Why didn't he choose it? Whining, leaning towards him with a wide smile, replies that this is of course because he is not worthy of it. The guy falls to the floor and, banging on the floor, screams, "This can't be happening. He is not Ning. His true friend wouldn't do that." Chuan, observing everything from the side, notes that these two whom Whining chose are the heirs of large families and have appeared on television before. Would leaving a friend for the future be typical for Ning? Or is the hidden I actually consuming the player as he thought? Wu Zhen at this time approaches his companions, who is sitting on the ground crying, and asks what his name is. The guy plaintively replies that his name is Zhang Beishan. Zhen extends his hand to him and tells him that he can come with him. He hopes that Beishan understands everything. He immediately touches his palm and exclaims he doesn't even know how to thank him. He will try very hard. After Wu Zhen approaches Zhu Chuan presently and asks if he wants to go with them. Well, he politely answers no, he is grateful for such an offer. When companions acquire a physical body, they note that it is time for them to be reborn, so they need to go to the underground palace as soon as possible. They should follow the elder, maybe they will get something else. Chuan watches them go down the stairs even lower and wonders, again the players are going to the underground palace. What is the system thinking this time? By the way, he then remembered that he received a map of the underground palace. Having taken it out and looking closely, he is shocked and wonders what is going on there. The map shows that this is not the entrance to the underground palace. But if this is not the entrance, then where does this move lead? Judging by the fact that everything points to the underground palace, if he wants to know the answer, he will have to go down there. But the entrance is too suspicious, he better go and find the entrance that is shown on the map and go down there. After a while, he finds himself in a small clearing near large boulders. Looking around, Zhu Chuan notes that he does not see the entrance, but why is it marked? Next to the stones, a system window indicates that this is the entrance to the underground palace. But the next window announces that the dragon hunting technique skill has been activated. Chuan extends his hand forward and clarifies, is this the art of hunting dragons? Since the skill has activated, there must be treasure in there somewhere. He does not need to specifically look for the gate that opens the entrance. This is very convenient. As soon as he steps on a large stone, a passage from the stairs leading down immediately opens in front of him. Armed with a torch and carefully descending, he thinks out loud that there are no stars or sun in the complete world, so this must be the moon he saw then. Kaidor said that the moon lifts the curse, but he doesn't know if that's true or not. By the way, even the history of Vera's underground palace is written down. How big is this game? Having descended, he finds himself in front of high doors, which immediately open slowly. Chuan asks in surprise, is he already there? But after passing through the doors and finding himself on the street among the destroyed buildings, silent, dotted with shiny, flickering ones. My, Zhu Chuan exclaims enthusiastically, it can't be. Unexpectedly, but the underground palace of faith is a city. Even though it is destroyed, you can still feel the grandeur of the past. Starting to slowly walk forward, he mentally notes that the map shows that this is the main city of the underground palace of faith, almost half of the entire territory. However, it will probably be a long time before the Temple of Courage finds something here. But I hear some sound, he grunts uninterestedly and looks to the side. Suddenly he is thrown back by a blast wave, and a huge blue monster with glowing red eyes appears in front of him. Chuan asks in shock, are there really ice monsters here? When it raises the sword over him, Zhu Chuan also arms himself. The system announces that the Kirin hand skill is activated. The next moment, jumping up and hitting the monster on the head, he kills it and notes, does that mean Kaidor was telling the truth? The underground palace is divided into two factions, goblins and ice zombies. Are these the zombies that were there originally? Looking around, Chuan sees many zombies walking around the destroyed city and wonders what is going on here. Is this where all the zombies come? Some zombies look like players. Countries are unusual in attacking everyone indiscriminately, but why don't they attack him? Climbing the stairs behind a crowd of zombies, he begins to think out loud. It seems that they are going somewhere, so he should follow them. The temple is in this country, isn't it? What are ice zombies doing in the temple? But raising his head and looking up, Zhu Chuan freezes with his mouth open. In front of him is the luxurious snow-white underground palace of Vera. He exclaims enthusiastically, this is a temple. There must be the clues he's looking for. But the door to enter the city completely opens, and the players appear from there. The knight, being the first, belligerently shouts, forward, and they must kill these zombies. Let them taste their power. Chuan, noticing their transformed appearance, is perplexed. Have they already changed classes? Class changes are these temples. When the man runs forward, he pushes one of the zombies away with his shield. He falls and chuckles, noting that the zombie class is very strong. It's not hard to die once or twice. It seems he made the right choice. Zombies are much more interesting than archers or swordsmen. An information box appears in front of Chuan, which explains that this is an ice zombie. Unique special ability. The player's attack and movement speed are reduced by 50%. The player will not die from special circumstances. Base stats have been increased. Killing players gives a lot of experience points. When a player is attacked by an underground holy spring, he becomes incapacitated and the player is easier to kill. After reading this, he tries to understand, change class to become a zombie. It's unimaginable. Doesn't this passive skill divide players into two camps? Players at this time, being under a protective translucent shield, are defending themselves from advancing zombies. While the knight continues to command, they must use the holy spring. Unexpectedly, a powerful stream of water flies out from behind their backs towards the zombies, washing away the monsters. Chuan manages to run to the side, while some zombies scream in fear. A man raising his sword up announces that everyone must retreat. They need a break. The next group must clean up after the fight. Then pointing the tip of the sword towards Chuan, he angrily exclaims, "Who is he?" He raises his hands up and notes that they should be easier. He is usually a player who was passing by. The knight asks again, is he an ordinary player? How did he end up here? Chuan replies that he spent one more night upstairs, then accidentally came down through a different passage here. By the way, he just saw their skills. Did they change classes? The man putting his sword in his belt confirms this. Yes, the players who ended up in the underground palace have completely completed the class transition. But there are many freaks who changed class and became zombies. This is absolutely unacceptable. If he's okay, he can go with them. He will be able to change classes in the temple. Soon, they all go to Vera's palace, where he sees other players. Is the girl the first to come out to meet him, and with a smile? The plump, strong, gray-haired man behind her adds, if the guy doesn't want to show everyone, he can only show him and get straight into the Black Feather Guild. A guy with purple hair, a monocle in his eye, and a white suit turns to the man and suspiciously asks what Liu Yang means. Does he want to rob them? The girl is trying to calm down the flaring argument. They must stop making a fuss. They better look at the specs first. There's no point in arguing. Then the guy turns to Chuan, who at this time is trying to quietly leave them. What does the new guy do? He doesn't know the rules. But when Chuan moves even further away, the purple-haired guy points his finger at him and says irritably, but he's wayward. It will be good if he continues to be so stubborn. He must be captured. At the same moment, a knight approaches him, but Chuan, quickly reacting, takes the sword out of its sheath and deals with the man with one swing. Someone's surprised voice is heard nearby. He killed with one blow. Immediately after, someone shoots him with an arrow, but the arrow simply breaks off on his armor on his back. The witch, seeing this, notes that warriors have the highest defense rate among all classes. Unexpectedly, one sword strike does over 6,000 points of damage. The guy still hasn't even changed classes, but the archer notes that his arrow does not damage him. What kind of monsters are these? The guy with purple hair immediately runs up to him and clasps his hands together with a smile and notes that he was too arrogant. He is Chen Jun from the Nanchuan Trade Union. If he joins their union, he will pay the guy 200,000 a month. If this is not enough, then they can agree later. Then a red-haired girl runs up to them, pushes Jiang away, and mimics Chen. He was right when he said that his family would achieve nothing. Guy looking for 2 million? He should go to them. He will be able to choose from all the beautiful players and their union. She just doesn't know which ones he likes. Yun also does not stand aside, and notes that the Nanchuan Union does not offer a very good price. If he joins the Black Feather Guild, he will receive 5 million a year. But Chuan leaves with all this, and waving his hand goodbye to them apologizes. He is not interested in this. All three of them immediately become a small circle and begin to discuss it. The girl asks who this guy is. Is he crazy? Or is he the son of a large family cultivating the dark arts? Chen Zhong adds, this is incredible. Such children would trample them. Where did he get this attitude from? Liu Yang also asks a question. Did this guy come to the temple to change classes? When changing classes, there is a chance of a hidden class appearing. Zheng finally announces they should go and see. Then all three of them approach a small round area, in the middle of which stands Chuan. At this moment, a little worried, he mentally notes that he does not have to choose a regular class. Then there will be no advantage over players with hidden classes. The system announces that a player entrance has been detected. When a bright beam shines sharply on it, it adds that the analysis of the characteristics begins. It was discovered that the player did not change class. The system selects the most suitable class. Hyun's voice is heard from the side here. When a player changes classes, the system recommends a class based on stat scores. That is, thus hidden classes can appear. Chen Zhang also adds that this guy knocks out class changers with one hit, so he must have incredible stats. He cannot imagine what hidden classes may be revealed to him. A huge knight with 2 pairs of translucent golden wings appears in front of Zhu Chuan and asks whether the respected brave man wants to bow to the god of the night and forever keep knighthood in his heart. And he will be given the title of Paladin. The system window opens the characteristics of this. The unique effect is that the player will be blessed by the god of light and will be immune to light magic damage. Protection will increase significantly. When casting light magic, there is a chance of increasing the skill by 1 level. The player is protected by the god of light and damage is reduced. He will be given a shiny set of items. But to the surprise of everyone, Chuan replies that he is sorry, but he does not accept it. The knight asks again in shock, is he sure he wants to refuse? He confirms this, yes, he does not need such a class. He thinks it is too weak. At this point, Zhu Chuan notes that the class sounds rubbish and the passive skills are not as good as his awakened god-level talent. The players who were watching him at that time were also perplexed. He refused the class. Since the creation of the Complete World program, players with hidden classes are considered public property. If he doesn't need it, can they take it away? Why will it disappear? The system notes that the player refused to change class for the first time. He has unlocked a special talent called Jack of all trades. With this talent, he can have multiple classes at once and enjoy the special effects of all of them. He gains experience points for each class. Chuan calmly reasons that for a long time he did not know about his talent. The ability to have 20 types of classes is also a magical skill. Although experience points are awarded separately for each class, it has Kai clearing, so this is not a problem. When a woman appears in front of him with a glowing light above her head, those around him ask, is this the goddess of light? The goddess of light patronizes all the knights mentioned on the frescoes. This is higher than NPC. Did this guy get the highest hidden class? The goddess bows and says she feels the pulsating power in the war. She gives him a blessing and asks him to become part of the world. System Windows announces that the player has been blessed by the goddess of light. The goddess of light wants him to become a saint of light. Type of blessing, buff, permanent. The effect is that when blessed by the goddess of light, the player receives light class immunity and deals double damage to creatures of darkness. Then the window shows the characteristics of the saint. The rarity of this applies to the highest hidden class. The unique effect is that it is a pact with the goddess of light. As her protector, the player receives the highest divine power. He can use all light class skills, and the damage depends on the amount of mana spent. Finally, Zhu Chuan announces that he accepts it. He is surrounded by a glowing golden haze, and he thinks that there are at least thousands of light class skills in the complete world. Theoretically, as long as he has enough mana, he has the destructive power of the gods in this world. Besides, he can have 20 classes at the same time, so he has no reason to refuse. 5 classes appear before him, and each of the representatives in turn says a greeting. A man with ashen hair and a crown on his head says that he is the king of the dark kingdom of Shura. The evil skeleton in the robe exclaims, among all living beings, only he can control life and death. A girl in golden armor announces that she is the goddess of war. Another girl with green hair proudly says she is the lord of the elf. The old man, whose face is hidden under a wide-brimmed hat, says that he came from ancient times and wields all magic. Further, system windows appear next to them, and each of the class representatives addresses Chuan. The goddess of war says that she will show him a real fight, so he must become her soldier. The system explains that this is the demigod of war. The unique effect is that he will become the protector of the god of battle, and his characteristics change from 1 point of strength equal to 10 points of attack to 1 point of strength equal to 30 points of attack. Every time he fights, his proficiency will increase. He has a chance to gain additional stat points and experience points. The weapon is represented by the divine golden spear of the god of war. Level refers to the unknown, a special subject. Special skills is that only demigods of war or gods of war can fight with magical weapons that ignore 90% of the enemy's armor, and its attack has a chance to counter the enemy's spell. Next, the elf mistress announces that she will give Zhu Chuan the blessing of the elves. Therefore, he must become the protector of the elves. The system also explains that the unique effect of this is that he will become a protector of the elves and will be revered by them. It will become easier for him to concentrate the power of nature. Each time you level up, an additional 10 points will be added to agility and elven characteristics will be obtained, such as proficiency with a bow and arrow. And his lifespan will be increased. His charm will also be increased. He can sense the power of nature and read additional information about different plants. The third in line is the King of the Dark Kingdom, who also promises that he will give Chuan the terrifying skill of killing Shura people. Therefore, it must become the sharpest blade of Shura. The system window says that the unique effect of this is that he will become the shadow of the Shura clan and gain the mighty power of that clan. He can see the weakness and the enemy, perform precise strikes, 100% ignoring the enemy's attacks, and the damage will be increased 3 times. He can use Shura's shadow to see through his opponent. When he performs a transparent attack, his critical damage increases to 300%. The king is followed by a mysterious old man who tells Zhu Chuan that he will learn the secret of life and death. He will give him the power of immortality. The system explains that this is an ancient magician sage. The unique effect of this is that all the magic he uses comes from an ancient power of magic. The spells he performs change qualitatively, and their power also increases. He will master the skill of door magic writing. His courage stat changes from 10 mana points to 1 courage point, 50 mana points changes to 1 courage point. It will restore 10% of your mana points every second. The last one turns out to be a skeleton who asks Chuan to become the heir to the ancient sages of magic. The warrior wants to learn the secrets of ancient magic. The system window says that this is an oracle. The unique effect of this is that he receives the secret of life from the god of death and becomes an oracle traveling the world. Having received the oracle, he will engage in the activities of the oracle. He may announce the rise of a creature from the dead, which will heal him to some extent. When using the skill for personal purposes, it will restore 50% of your health points every second. The number of mana points consumed per second will continue to increase. The red-haired guy watching this from afar said in shock, "All the gods have appeared." Zhu Chuan, after listening to them, announces that he accepts everyone. Another player clarifies in surprise, "Did he accept the class change? What's happening?" System organs that appear next to Chuan announce that his lifespan has been increased to 1,000 years. He mastered the skill of reading ancient inscriptions. The players who were watching this, seeing the system window with his characteristics, screamed in shock, "This can happen." Coming closer and reading everything that is written there, they rush to discuss it. Zhu Chuan is a very familiar name. Isn't this the young lover of a young girl from the Lin family? Sure enough, it was him. A wave of several large families suddenly destroyed several others. Chen Jiang, looking after the departing Chuan, adds that he still refused a dowry of several hundred billion. Since then, it has been nicknamed the untouchable capital. Liu Yang notes that from the looks of it, but is still unsure whether he will rely on the Ling family or they on him. Zhu Chuan, leaving the temple and looking around, notes that there are zombies plus players in the temple. This is still not enough. Where else should you be players? It seems that there are many more secrets hidden in the underground palace. An hour later, he reaches a forest of stone pillars, energetic blue lightning flickering everywhere in the air. Chuan, trying to quickly run through this area, notes that he remembers how he received the lost thunder ring. Now he can wear it, but he doesn't know if using it will have any miraculous effect. The system explains that the unique effect of this is that it is a Thunder Lord's ring. With it, he will be immune to lightning damage in the underground palace. But when he looks at the protective ball surrounding him and sees lightning being attracted to him, Zhu Chuan, confused, asks, "Is this thing absorbing lightning?" After that, he still continues to run, deciding along the way. He doesn't know if this ring is as impervious to thunder, but this is the first step out of the thunder pool. After another half an hour, he stops and, looking at the map, notes that with his speed of movement, it took him a long time, but judging by the map, he should get out here soon. The map shows that the Whirlpool of Thunder is the dividing line between two forces. On the other side, there are goblins. Walking forward a little more, he finds himself in front of 2 stone monsters guarding the entrance. Chuan stopped and raised his head and said, "What is this? Is this the source of thunder?" But as soon as he touched the steps near the building, with a dark entrance, yellow lightning bolts flew from the ring in different directions and surrounded the stone giants. And the eyes began to light up red. The system explained that this was the guardian of the underground palace. It is at level 15, and so it is equal to 400, health points are 80,000, defense is equal to 500. The skill is that there is no way out. No exit means that the attacks of the underground castle guards block the enemy's escape route and force the enemy to attack. They were originally the defenders of the underground palace of faith, but for unknown reasons, they were driven into the thunder pool. They must be killed to obtain the dungeon set and the key to the secret dungeon realm. As soon as Chuan became familiar with this information, he immediately armed himself with a large sword. The system notified that a class change had occurred to Shadow Shura. He exclaimed joyfully, the characteristics are unexpectedly high. Now he wants to test its power. Chuan runs forward. At the same time, his right hand begins to glow pink, and the system notifies him that the Kirin's hand is equipped. As soon as he gets close to the guards, he disappears. The system notifies that he used a stealth skill called Shadow Cord. Enemy weaknesses discovered. Chuan easily climbs onto the back of the stone guard and strikes him in the back, which takes away 80,000 from him. The monster disintegrates into small stones when suddenly another guard swings his fist behind him. But when it hits the ground, Chuan manages to jump to the side, and with one movement of the sword cuts off the monster's head. The system immediately congratulates him for successfully killing the left and right guards of the underground castle and gaining a lot of experience points. Ability has been revoked. Chuan Gordon inspects the battlefield and notes that it seems he can improve his equipment again. A system window appears, which lists that he now has Dungeon Guardian Armor, Dungeon Guardian Necklace, Dungeon Guardian Belt, Dungeon Guardian Boots, Dungeon Guardian Shields. But suddenly he finds something and asks in surprise, what is it? The system explains that in his hand is the mysterious key to the underground palace of Vera. Vera's underground palace has existed for thousands of years. There is a rumor that it hides major secrets. He can use the key to enter the underground palace. Looking at this key, he says, with this he can open the hidden palace. There are other secrets in the underground palace, but I'll put that aside for now. Unexpectedly, lightning began to thicken behind him, and when he turned to the stone structure, the system explained that it was the sleeping Lord of Thunder. The rarity of this is at the gold level Overlord, it is very dangerous. Level 30. Health points, attack power, and skills are classified. The special thing about this is that it has immunity to physical damage. The status of the Overlord is asleep, uncontrollable. Chuan is very surprised. This is not all. He can't see the health and strength points of an attack. He slowly steps aside and adds, the Overlord also has immunity to physical damage. He needs to get out of here quickly. But suddenly a monster appears behind him, jumps to the ground, and scares Chuan. The system window that appears again explains that this is now an angry Thunder Lord. Health points is 350,000, attack power is 4,000, skills include Thunder Strike, Thunder Field. It points a finger in his direction, and the next second it fires a bolt of thunder. Chuan manages to jump away at the last moment, and while dodging the next attacks, he notes out loud that he reacted in time. Otherwise, he would have been killed in a second. The winner loudly and sharply begins to shout that all uninvited guests must not die. After that, he reincarnates, and with the help of 2 long wings, he flies after Chuan. When he saw this and clenched his teeth in fear, he was surprised. Such a large body could move at such high speed. What a huge guy. The system again notified him of a class change to Shadow Shura. Trying to get rid of the persecution as quickly as possible, Chuan notes that there should be a map border ahead. He needs to hurry up. The monster opens its mouth a few centimeters from him. As a friend, a boundary appears, through which Chuan easily runs. The Lord of Thunder hits it with his back, while he turns around with relief and notes that it was close. Fortunately, the boss cannot leave the area. The monster again takes on its original appearance and, raising its head with burning eyes, shouts, Vera. She kept him in prison for so many years, she still hasn't let him go. Trying to break through the border, the Thunder Winner threatens to kill the guy. He will kill all his people. Chuan, calmly watching him, thinks, is Vera the founder of the underground palace? But after leaving back towards the forest, he notes that this is enough. He should go. An hour later, he arrives at a small clearing and, still impressed, says that he did not think he would see a virgin forest underground. Well, the next moment he stops when he sees that in a green clearing, people are frozen in various poses, surrounded by a green mass. He wonders, what is this? Do they become goblins? Armed with a spear, he again wonders, is this how people become goblins? Suddenly, when he turns around towards the noise from the side, a huge snake bursts out of the ground and eats one of the players. Chuan notes tiredly, he had just dealt with the Lord of Thunder when a disgusting huge snake appeared. He couldn't even rest. The reptile suddenly raises its head up and makes a loud sound. He is very surprised. Are these the sounds of a goblin? Immediately behind him, about a dozen green glowing pairs of eyes appear among the trees. Turning around, Zhu Chuan sees goblins armed with sticks and knives and realizes that the snake can summon goblins. This is very curious. But brushing off the monsters with a spear, he adds that now they are just experience points for him. The snake also does not remain in the country and approaches him, its mouth wide open. Chuan, instantly reacting, strikes it with his weapon, and the reptile falls defeated. He throws the spear over his shoulder and says that it seemed more terrible than it actually was. After looking to the side and smiling slyly, he notes that only soldiers remain. The goblins, baring their sharp teeth, look at him angrily and then go on the attack. One of the players, whom no one has chosen as a companion, watches what is happening in the clearing from behind a tree and notes that this guy is alarming. He thought it would be beneficial to follow people with special classes, but they all team up to defeat a huge snake. He's stuck here and wasting his time. When the goblins are finished, a woman's voice is heard behind Zhu Chuan, and he has gained experience. Players with special classes come out of the forest to him, and Wu Mank notes that she did not think that they would meet so soon. When he saw them, he noted that they had come. The ghost guy flies up to him and is sincerely interested. He explored the surroundings when he left the square, but did not find a way out. How did he get here? Chuan explains that he entered at a different place and passed through the thunder pool. One of Wai Ning's companions doesn't believe his words and shouts at the guy to stop making things up. Thunder kills on contact. Several of their people are already waiting to be revived. Ning next to him adds that even he cannot walk a single step, even though he is immortal. Zhu Chuan indifferently points out that since they don't want to believe him, they don't have to do it. With these words, he turns away while the players begin to be indignant. What kind of attitude is this? He shouldn't be so selfish. He should tell them if he knows other ways. Yes, there is nothing like that. It's better for them to help each other. Chuan also annoyedly tells them that he knows the way out, but doesn't want to talk about it. And what will they do? To help each other. How can they help him? Moreover, this game supports PvP. If someone talks too much, he will simply kill that person. So what did they say? They immediately fall silent after he scares them like that, and stare after him for a while as he leaves. But soon, Wu Zhen crosses his arms and notes that even the 6 families of the magical city could not kill this guy. They should forget about their ideas, nothing will work out for them. Manga adds, are they ready to fight to the death with the Lin family if even a hair falls from his head? The brunette says that he was wondering why his name was so familiar. So he is Zhu Chuan. Well, the red-haired guy whispered to him to stop. It is in the game that they can be reborn after death. In reality, if they fall under the radar of a large family, they will be destroyed. Chuan, who apparently heard their conversation, apologizes and explains that he does not need her protection. She has her own path, and he has his own path. After that, he moves further, but Wu Mank, along with Zhen, immediately follows him and hurries to calm him down. Zioking misses him. There is no great hatred between them. She acted quite boldly, but she was with him. She almost abandoned her family because of him. But these are 6 big families. All these years she has been hiding in the magical city only because she contacted him. Zhu Chuan stops and turns to her sadly and says that he knows that she treats him well, but he does not like such company. Not just being a son-in-law. Chuan always thought that he would live a happy, full life with Ling Zioking, but after graduation, she finally tore off her mask. As the heiress of the Lin family, she made demands on him, asking him to join the family. He does not obey anyone's orders and could not accept such changes in her. But most of all, he could not accept the fact that she was with him day and night for 3 years. It turned out to be an actress. In the end, he decided to break up with her. Returning from the memories, Zhu Chuan turned to Wu Mank and Wu Zhen, asking, by the way, what was wrong with them. He said that when they were going down, halfway down the stairs collapsed. Their group fell from the sky into the jungle. They cut down the trees that grew around them to make a boat and get across the swamp. But they were attacked again and again by a huge snake, and goblins were waiting in the area. They had to unite with the others. The huge snake was so fierce, but Chuan killed this one in one fell swoop. What happened to him during the time they were separated? Chuan told brother and sister Wu about what had happened, including that he could choose different classes, but still hid how his god-level skills had awakened. At the end, he noted that he did not expect to meet them beyond the Thunder Pool. Jen noted thoughtfully, it turned out that he had exciting adventures, even enviable, but he wondered, now that the snake was dead, could he go have a look at it? Wu Zhen ordered him to wait here while he cut down a couple of trees. Approaching one of them, and clasping the wide trunk with his hands, he screamed, and yellow lightning appeared around him. Jen quickly grew in size and tore off half of the tree trunk. When he put it on the ground, Chuan suggested that he rest first. He has the skills of the craft, so now it's up to him. A moment later, in the place of the tree trunk, there was a shiny crafted boat, and Zhu Chuan was wiping his forehead in it. The system explained that this was a special wooden boat. The rarity of this falls into the bronze category. It is on the 5th level. The special thing about it is that it can float through a swamp and not sink. Wu Zhen, looking at this together with Wu Mank, honestly refused. He didn't expect the guy to have such skills. It took him a lot longer. He, extending his hand in a friendly manner, replies, "Come on, they have to do this together." After some time, the three of them are sailing in a boat through an emerald-colored swamp. Clouds of white smoke float above the water, but Chuan warns them and exclaims, they must not be careful. This is a miasm. It is poisonous. The boat slowly circles the rocks sticking out of the swamp, while the stars twinkle brightly in the night sky. Zhu Chuan, tying a scarf over his face, looks into the distance and makes a remark. This is the first time he has seen the game drive players into a trap. He's afraid that people won't want to come back to the game after it's released. But Wu Zhen tells him that it's not that simple. Since virtual currency is linked to real money, people can use it to squeeze out. What does the guy think? Where is the meaning of life? Besides, it may already be too late to get out. He turns to him and asks again, is it too late? Does he know something? Jen answers briefly, no, not really. But he heard from people from Complete World that this is an unusual game. This concerns the fate of the Dragon Kingdom and even the whole world. Chuan, hearing this, opens his eyes wide in horror and wonders, can the game determine the fate of the world? Before, he would never have believed in such a thing. Since 2300, each of them has had a smart chip since birth. It is as important as their personality. But since entering the game, he had not received news from the real world for a long time. The bud has completely moved into another world. He tried to get out, but he couldn't. At first he thought it was a bug, or that you couldn't quit the game in the middle of a dungeon. Among the settings, communication, and exit functions, he clicks on the last line, but immediately the system notifies him that he cannot exit. Zhu Chuan realizes with horror, it seems this is not an accident. They soon reach the shore, and he notes that they are almost there. When they find themselves on the ground, Chuan, looking at the small device on his wrist, reasons that, judging by the map, this is the westernmost part of the underground palace. But there must be a city here. Why is there only deep forest here? Is the city built in the forest? When all three of them walk along a narrow path of a dense forest, Mank clarifies with a trembling voice, are there goblins here too? Suddenly Zhu Chuan arms himself with a spear and notes that they should all be at tea. They're coming. Wu Zhen also immediately uses his skills to increase in size. A crowd of armed, evil goblins is coming towards them, and then rushes forward, knocking down several at once, exclaiming, it can't be, why are there so many of them? A whole army. While fighting monsters with a sword, Mank is perplexed. Have they entered their territory? Chuan adds that it seems they will have to find a way to break through. Goblins continue to come to them, sitting on goats with glowing eyes. The system announces that a goblin army has attacked. The goblin army built to carry out the attack deals 5,000 points of non-selective damage to their enemies as well. When a squad of several dozen goblins rushes across the clearing, Zhen and Mank only manage to step aside at the last moment so as not to be shot down. Zhu Chuan also jumps up and orders the monsters to go into the forest. Landing on the ground, he asks how goblins can use skills. They also have 5,000 damage, even he can't stand it. Suddenly, he opens his eyes in fear, and Wu Zhen looks up every day and sees one goblin with a bow on a tree branch and shouts, "It's here!" Chuan rushes forward, back to the path, and shouts for them to follow him. At this point, he notes that if the map is correct, then if they move in this direction, They should soon see the castle. The secret area must be here. Then he points his hand at Jen and Mank running behind him, saying, "Light shield." When they are surrounded by a translucent dome, which is broken by an arrow, Wu Zhen thinks with admiration, this guy was not only able to easily kill a huge snake, but he also imposes effects on his partners. He will have an incredible amount of achievement. When they come out, they will put him on the list of the most important people for the Wu family. Zhu Chuan shouts with hope that there must be a way out ahead. But his face shows shock when he stops and, looking at the towering structure surrounded by zombies, says, "Is such a huge castle hidden in the forest?" A goblin with a crown on his head angrily asks why people invaded his kingdom. The system opens a window in which the characteristics of the Goblin Lord are written. It is at level 25. Its rarity is silver. The Overlord has 200,000 health, 300 defense, 2,000 attack power. His skills include transforming from earth to swamp, non-converging lightning, and the power of a frost wave. Turning land into a swamp suggests that you can permanently turn a piece of land instead of devouring creatures and creating new goblins. Lightning's Bend is used when the player is wearing the Thunderlord crown. Then they can continuously summon lightning strikes to attack the target, dealing 1,000 points of damage. The power of the frost wave suggests that the player can absorb the power of the cold wave to freeze large areas, causing a 2-second torpor. It is possible to turn the enemy into a crazy zombie. Wu Mank, looking up, clarifies, "Can goblins talk to people?" But then a system window appears, which says that a hidden mission has been launched, namely to defeat the miser of the underground palace of Vera. The reward is that they will receive a huge Overlord crown, a lot of experience points, and will open a real underground palace of faith. Chuan smirks and notes out loud, "Is that cute goblin king at the top of the city a miser?" When he jumps, the voice of Wu Mank and Wu Zhen, Zhu Chuan, is heard. He flies from top to bottom right at the Goblin Lord, and he notices the jewelry on his hand, mentally exclaims, "Ring." He then commands another huge goblin nearby. This guy was with Kaidor. He stole his ring. He must be killed. The huge monster pushes off from the fowl and jumps straight towards Chuan. But he easily cuts it, flying through and taking 50,000 damage from the monster. Mank and Jen watch this with their mouths open and exclaim, "He did everything again in one fell swoop." Wu Zhen also understands 50,000 points of damage. This guy's power may be more terrifying than they thought. When Zhu Chuan finds himself on the roof of the castle, the Goblin Lord immediately asks in fright that he must stop. He shouldn't go near him. When Chuan points a sword at him, he immediately falls to his knees and, almost touching his forehead to the floor, continues to beg, no, he shouldn't be killed. He will give the guy the treasure if he doesn't kill him. He will tell him all the secrets of Vera's underground palace. The system immediately displays an information window that says the mission has been completed. The player defeated the miser of the underground palace. Then Zhu Chuan asked again, "What?" Then he must tell him the secrets of the underground palace. He understands what the consequences will be if he remains dissatisfied with this. The ruler, shaking with fear, replies that he has lived here for 1,000 years. He will not dare to lie to him. Then he begins to tell everything. A long time ago, Vera's underground palace was called not an underground palace, but a dark cave. There were goblins, human criminals, and all sorts of dark creatures. The territories were predominantly divided between races, but sometimes conflicts occurred. But they achieved success. At some point, a woman named Vera came. Her arrival completely destroyed the balance in the dungeon. She united the underground palace of her great power, ordered the creatures to build castles. They built altars, one after another, in the exposed areas of the dungeon. Altars opened every few hundred years. They were connected to the surface and attracted warriors from different worlds. The criminals were sent to the surface and became targets for the killing and training of these warriors. The goblin continued to say that he was originally the protector of the secret area and the altar. When Faith disappeared in a secret area on the surface, a frosty wave appeared from underground and people began to run away. He took the opportunity to take over the place, and it has been his ever since. Chuan looked away and began to think, judging by his words, the criminals of the underground palace were driven to the surface like wild monsters. But why does he say that those warriors from other worlds are called upon every few centuries? Isn't this a beta test for the game right now? And what did Faith need here? After these thoughts, he turned to the goblin and asked where the secret area was. The goblin replied that it was in the castle, but he needed a key to open it. He used to have a treaty as the Lord of Thunder. He helped him free himself. He in turn gave him the key to the secret area, But when he returned from there, he became unbearably cruel. Now he is afraid. Now finding the key will be problematic. Chuan took the key in his hands and asked him again, "Is he talking about this?" The goblin was very scared and, pointing his finger with a dumbfounded look at the key, shouted, "Yes, this is what you need. But why does he have it? Did he really kill the Thunderlord?" Chuan calmly answered him, "No, he is alive." "Does he know where the entrance to the secret area is? He should take him there." The goblin became embarrassed and said he knows, but the structure of the secret area has not been maintained for a long time. If this is opened abruptly, the structure may collapse and destroy the entire castle. Chuan reacted to the expression with his silence when suddenly Chuan, in a furious state of mind, found himself behind the goblin and began to shout, "Stop talking this nonsense. He must take him where he said." The goblin screamed, gritting his teeth in fear. "Okay, he'll take him there now." Entering the secret realm of faith. They entered the room and the goblin said, "Warrior, this is the entrance to a secret area." Chuan replied, "That's good, he has nothing to do here, so he should take off his things and move on." The goblin looked at him in surprise and asked in a trembling voice, "Is that all?" He replied that initially they agreed that he would spare him, and he would give him all his treasures. Meanwhile, the goblin, with hatred in his thoughts, shouted that he was a bandit and this belonged to him. Chuan suggested that he could take them when he killed him. How can he do that? The goblin became wary and asked with a downcast look, could he at least leave something about himself? Chuan replied that it depended on his sincerity. The system window suddenly informed him that he had received 10,000 gold coins from the dungeon miser, received the crown of the Lord of Thunder, the scepter of Shivan, the helmet of the Immortal, the mantle of Berserker. Chuan was delighted to receive this treasure, and the goblin said that he only had little things left and was leaving. Chuan looked after him and asked again, "Does the Goblin King who lived for 10,000 years have only this in his inventory?" He already said that if he is not satisfied, the consequences will be serious. A moment later, he hit the goblin right on the ear with his sword and cut it, because of which the goblin groaned in pain and grabbed his severed ear and said that he was really very sorry. There was no need to lie to him. Please let him go and sit. This is really all he has, and he has nothing left. The system window reported that he received 1,000,000 gold coins from the dungeon miser. Chuan answered him, "Okay, he can already leave," after which the goblin bowed to him several times and shouted words of gratitude, and then rushed to the exit. Chuan became wary and thought, he received 1,000,000 at once and barely maintained his equanimity. Not long ago, he lived in a small rented house. The people there didn't even have money to pay their bills. Chuan put his hands on his belt and looked at the arch, after which he asked the question, how can he open the secret area? If he had known, he would have asked someone. Chuan turned his attention upward and looked at it questioningly, after which he brought the key to the bright red symbol and wondered, should he insert this here? Having inserted the key inside the hole, he turned it and an incredibly bright light appeared in front of his face, and which he had to cover his eyes with his hand. He squinted one eye and asked, did it really work? The system asked him, does he want to enter the underground secret realm of faith? Danger level, very dangerous. He was surprised at the level of danger and said that he had only seen this in information about the Lord of Thunder. Suddenly a sly smile appeared on his face and he thought, but this means that there will be excellent opportunities there, and now he has nothing to doubt. He immediately took a step and entered the portal, and after him bright rays of light appeared in the room. Many goblins began to scatter throughout the castle and scream loudly because of the huge cobblestones falling from the ceiling and the walls cracked, and the castle began to fall apart with an incredible roar. One of the goblins fell face first into the ground and exclaimed. The blond boy raised his hand into the air and opened his mouth in shock. He wondered if he had regained his appearance. Another ran up to him and asked loudly why he was sitting here. The underground palace is about to collapse, and they should escape from here as quickly as possible. Outside the castle, there was a green creature with long blonde hair and said that the secret shoes had been opened again. Several energy sparks ran through his body, and he shouted, spreading his arms, yes, Temple of Class Change. People were shouting inside the room, what's the matter? The system asked them to escape now, and players who survived the escape will receive many rewards. The guys tried to dodge the stones falling from the ceiling and tried to run out of the room in time, while the system notified that after the escape, the first collective copy of the server would disappear, and the system would announce the best results and distribute rewards. Rewards include equipment, experience points, special activities, and rare pets. There will be rewards for survival. They should run. Everyone rushed to the exit. Chuan, meanwhile, walked through a dark, long corridor with high ceilings, and on the sides of him there were several fiery torches that illuminated his path. He paused and looked around wondering, is this a secret area? Behind him, the appearance of a man's face appeared inside a huge wall with a red crystal in his forehead and told him to stand still, because a living being cannot here enter the remains of the soul hall of the divine estate. Chuan jumped from fear and surprise of the appearance of such a creature and exclaimed in horror. After that, he turned face to face with this creature, and the system informed him that he had met the god of greed. He can pay a certain amount of gold to get an answer to his question. Chuan thought about it. It turns out he just needs money. He thought he would have to fight. The system pointed him to the exchange, and he wondered how such a god could end up here. The system window showed that he paid the god of greed 10 gold coins. God smiled and said to him, "Dear warrior, he is so generous." He advises him not to enter, after all. The gods inside are very dangerous. For example, there is a huge dog god outside the door. This lives by absorbing the souls of brave people. If he wants to leave, then he should click here. Of course, if he still wants to enter, he can give him the card. Chuan thought, it seems that the money is not enough for him to let him in, after which the system again reported that he paid the god of greed 10,000 gold coins. God smiled an incredibly wide smile, and Chuan said again, "Dear God, he needs a better card." God addressed him with the same respect and said that he assures the warrior that he will receive the best card. Chuan snatched the card from the mouth of the god with his drool, opened it, and thought, the card shows the names, characteristics, and weaknesses of the gods in each area. Indeed, it's quite detailed, almost an official guide. The system reports the hidden mission has been activated. Discover all the treasures of the gods. He looked ahead and asked how he could enter the temple. God replied, "Respected warrior, if he pays 100,000 gold coins, at the risk of being punished by the goddess, he will open the door for him." Chuan thought, 100,000 gold coins is 1 billion in reality, but there is no other way to complete the hidden mission, and a moment later the system reported that he paid the god of greed 100,000 gold coins. The gates opened in front of him, and the Hall of the Gods was open. God wished him a successful journey. He looked in front of him with caution and thought, the map shows that there is an incredibly fierce dog god who can ignore magic and protection. This can bite off a demigod's head in one fell swoop, so you have to be careful. Nothing happens. Is there something wrong with the card? He was dumbfounded when he heard the terrifying sounds and looked around him and wondered how long has this been here. On his left side there was a dog, which began to bark and lick his feet. He touched his forehead with his hand and asked with relief, did he cheat there at the door? The system window reports a hint. A lonely puppy considers him the owner. Does he accept it? Chuan asked, does this want him to become the master? Ordinary pets cannot help their owners in battle. What can this do? This seems pretty weak. The dog looked at him with a tender expression on his face, sticking out his tongue, and Chuan asked. He even began to show a cute expression on his face. Where did he learn this? He patted the puppy on the head and said that he didn't care and would take it with him. In addition, he does not yet need pets to help him in battle. Systems report, Warring Sky, Level 1, Owner Zhu Chuan, Rarity Unknown, Physique, Strength, Courage, Agility, Defense 1. Health 100, Magic Defense 1, Skill to be cute. The characteristics of this creature are quite low, and he calls it Zio Qian, although it does not look like the legendary dog at all. The system asks, Zio Chan asks for his experience. Does he agree to share it? He read this question and asked himself, what? Does this creature also need experience? Okay, he can improve this. It seems nothing has changed. Tian lit up with a yellow tint, and the system reported that his dog had gained experience and his dog's level had increased. Chuan was dumbfounded and shouted, what? The system again reported that it congratulated him on his pet gaining new skills. He saw the system ones and wondered in surprise, did all the characteristics increase 10 times in just one level? He can't be a god, can he? The level of this creature is 2, Owner of Chuan, Rarity Unknown, Strength and Agility 10, Courage 10, Health 1000, Defense and Magical Protection also 10. He smiled in the face of his pet and said to eat more. The system window reported additional information that at each level the price will increase from 1 to 10 times. He thinks it's outrageous. Jianshi began to bark and wag his tail. Chuan stroked it again and said, although leveling up a dog is very expensive and more than other pets, but he has Kai cultivation, and in any case, he will give all the experience from this to the pet. Well, now it's time for them to move on. His legs glowed yellow. A moment later, he found himself in front of the half-open gate and wondered what that sound was. Having entered the room, he noticed a man who was forging some objects and turned around to look at him questioningly, after which he asked, "Is he a man?" "This is the residence of the gods. How did he get here? Let him relax as he sees. Now he is just a blacksmith." Chuan was tense and took a defensive position, standing opposite the blacksmith, who turned out to be several times larger than him. He feels no hostility from him. After that, he spoke. The god of greed let him in, and he paid 100,000 gold coins for it. The blacksmith asked if it could be considered that he had been deceived. 100,000 gold coins? Yes, he is very generous. Chuan scratched the back of his head and said, something he didn't think about, because he didn't expect that the gods would also lie. He gave this creature 100,000 gold coins. The blacksmith continued to do his work and said in response, although he is a prankster, he does not think that he collected it for him. He just guards this entrance for too long, and even the gods change over time. Suddenly Tian broke free and was eager to run to the forge and make sounds at him. The blacksmith was surprised when he saw this in front of him and said, "Dog," he didn't expect that it would actually be reborn. Chuan straightened his hands and asked again, "Old man, does he know this? What kind of place is this anyway?" The blacksmith replied, "This is called the Temple of Reincarnation. All the gods who came here before were on their last legs. Some gods can use the enchantments here to restore their deeds and be reborn. This process lasted tens of thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of years, and some gods prefer to be reincarnated in other places. Their goal is to return to the top or gain more power until she interferes." Chuan asked again, "Does he mean Faith?" The blacksmith was surprised and asked again, "Does he know her too?" He does not know her origin, but only knows that her powers are extremely terrible. They fought to prevent her from capturing the most central and shooting altar in the temple, but many gods who were seriously injured were forced to reincarnate. After she captured the altar, the temple was filled with black fog in the countries. Even the gods could not withstand the damage from this black fog. After this, there are not many gods left in this temple. It turns out that the source of the cold wave is Faith. This dog was originally a divine temple guardian and a demigod. Now that tens of thousands of years have passed, it has successfully become a god through rebirth, but the cost of this ability upgrade. "Mortal, he came here for the inheritance of the gods, right?" Chuan spoke in response, perhaps, but asked again, "Where is it?" The blacksmith replies with a smirk, if he wants to find it, he must cross the forbidden zone and find the place of Faith's sleep. With his current strength, he is afraid that it will be a bit difficult. But since he was able to come here, and also tamed the god's dog as a pet, then perhaps this is his destiny. Does he see this stove? If he has the materials, he can make him equipment. Chuan rushed to his armor, which he scattered on the floor, pulling it out of his bag and asked, "Let him see if he can use any of it." The blacksmith asked him in surprise, "Does he really only have these materials? How did he even get here?" Chuan scratched the back of his head and didn't know what to answer, after which he expressed the idea that he had something else. He took off some of his clothes and said that this was equipment that he had originally planned to improve on his own. But he believes that it will be even better through the hands of a master like him. The old man grinned and expressed his interest when he suddenly became dumbfounded and said, This is the holy spear of the god of war." Chuan smiled and replied that everything is correct. This is a weapon given to the goddess of war herself. Old man, he really got it right. The blacksmith continued to stand in bewilderment and kept repeating that he had made it. Chuan was horrified and said in response, "So that's what's the matter." He realized that this old man turned out to be the creator of the divine weapon, so his story should be of no small importance. But why did he stay in the temple? The blacksmith spoke, to be honest. Even if you add all the remaining ingredients, it will not be easy to create equipment superior to this holy spear. Therefore, he should go to the god of the door. When he sees him, let him simply say that the old blacksmith sent him to him. He will definitely provide him with good materials if he receives enough gold coins. Chuan said, "Thanks for the tips, old man." He walked towards the exit, and the blacksmith asked him to wait and take something. Chuan turned to him with a questioning expression on his face, and the blacksmith threw a purple stone into his hands, saying that he had slept in the stone gate for too long and might not believe him. This should help him. Chuan waved the stone and said that he had a heart and thanked him for his kindness. Meanwhile, the blacksmith heard an appeal to himself. Someone asked what he thought. Could he go further? The blacksmith replied that he did not know this. This goddess is too strong, but if he can, then not everyone will be free. In any case, let him try it. Tian began to make loud noises and look towards the glowing wall, while the unknown person continued to say that it was useless to be angry with him. Now that he's inside, he can't just leave here and will end up becoming an immortal ghost, unless he can break the curse. But he himself understands how difficult it is, right? Tian became sad and began to howl. Chuan stopped in front of a gate with a bright red outline and asked the god of doors, "Is he still here?" There was silence for a while, and Chuan looked in front of him questioningly, when suddenly the system reported that he had thrown away the coin. The god began to come out of the wall again with an incredible roar, and Chuan tried to go back. God turned to him and asked, "Is it him again? Does he want to go out?" Chuan answered him, "No." God said that he had already said that it was dangerous inside, but he insisted on entering, and now he cannot let him out. Chuan showed him a purple stone, and God said, "The one in his hand is from the old blacksmith." He saw him. Chuan replied, yes, he wants him to improve his equipment. The old man asked him to come to him for materials. God answered, since the old blacksmith asked him to come here, he could provide him with the best materials. But all his materials are paid, they are not cheap, and he needs to think about it. The god suddenly shouted loudly, and the system reported that he had paid the god 700,000 gold coins. Chuan straightened his hands and asked, "What materials can this be exchanged for?" God responded, spat out a lot of human things from his mouth and said, "Here is the turpentine of the demon king. When the gods fought, he took it for himself. Here is the bloody essence of the abyss dragon, and here are the panties of the goddess." Chuan wondered in bewilderment, are these things really worth it? When he returned to the blacksmith with these things, the old man asked him what. And he brought some pretty decent materials. Chuan laid it out on the floor and exhaled and said, of course, these things cost him a total of 700,000 gold coins. He carried them to him and didn't even breathe. He knocked them to the floor with a crash, and a moment later a bright fire glowed in the furnace, and the old man said, "These materials are enough to improve his equipment." Chuan turned to him again and asked if he could help him with anything. The blacksmith asked again, "Does he know how to cast iron?" He replied, "A little, let him try to do it." He pointed his finger towards the old man towards the table with different types of hammers, and said that this was there and let him see which one suited him. He turned towards the table, and the system reported that he had discovered a special item, the hammer of the blacksmith god. He must lift the hammer, he will be able to gain the approval of the blacksmith god, and he will have a chance to receive a gift from him. He thought for a while, stopping in the middle of the room. The old man was originally the Martin god, and it is definitely not that easy for him to get his approval. He needs to lift the hammer, so he will take the biggest one. When he took the largest one, he immediately dropped it on the floor with an incredible crash, and with trembling hands tried to pick it up from the floor, loudly exclaiming from fatigue. The blacksmith asked him not to overestimate himself and start doing less. The system reported that the kill in hand skill has been activated. His magical powers began to penetrate the hammer, and he groaned loudly once more as he tried to pick it up from the floor. The blacksmith standing behind him opened his mouth in shock and shouted, "This is the biggest hammer, even for him it's difficult to lift it." How did he do it? Chuan, with incredible joy, held the hammer at a height and, throwing it behind his neck, said he just made a little more effort. After he lifted the hammer, he suddenly felt that it had become several times easier. He had the feeling that this was another test. The old man pointed towards the forging table and said, if so, then he must beat this piece of gold 100 times. He began to perform these actions, and the system congratulated him on the fact that he had raised the god of the forge for the first time and discovered a new improvement and hardening skill. Improving the hardening, the material that he improved has a high chance of improving the quality several more times. He thought that he was lucky, and this is what he needs now. After these thoughts, he struck the gold bar with his hammer, and after a moment stopped and placed it on the floor. He leaned on his elbows to rest, trying to catch his breath, and the blacksmith spoke to him thoughtfully so that he should listen to him, because he was not a mistake at all and had some capabilities. This beautiful piece of gold was originally a top-tier mythical-grade material, but after forging it, it can still be improved. This piece of gold is simply something unreal. Even he can't forge something like that. His skills are clearly superior to himself, so he will be the one to forge, and he will be in charge of polishing, enchanting, and casting. Thanks to him, he can use materials better than mythical ones to make weapons. He shouldn't worry because he will help him. Some time later, Chuan sat down on the ground, threw the young man with a roar and said, gritting his teeth from fatigue. For the first time he worked so hard without a break. That's it. He no longer has any strength. The old man answered him that he had not worked in vain. It was better than anything he had ever done. Looking at the brightly glowing things in front of Chuan again, the system window that reported, the helmet of the god of absolute protection, the mask of the unknown god, and the necklace of the god of pouring light, the armor of the god of absolute protection, the belt of the god of absolute protection, gloves of the absolute power of the gods, leggings of the god of absolute protection, boots of the god of absolute protection, sword of the god of war. Sword of the god of war, level requirements, no, equipment level is 1. The assessment is world class, the status is assigned by the gods, the only bearer is he. Quality, strength, essence, agility plus 100, attack power plus 99, attribute, world-class equipment created by the god Yauxi with skills that can be improved. The current bonus, the attack ignores all enemy defenses and reduces the enemy's attack power and attack speed by 10%, doubling their attack speed when attacking. He raised the new sword up and said with joy that it was amazing what attributes all these equipments had. He thought that gold level items were already very strong, but apparently he didn't know everything yet. He turned around and turned to the old man and said that he felt that this outfit was even stronger than the inheritance of the gods. It could even defeat faith. The blacksmith asked him not to rush to conclusions. The power of the gods exceeds his imagination. For example, originally the owner of the equipment he met was called the Thunder Lord, right? As a mere divine being, he was already invulnerable to all physical attacks, let alone a true god. However, with his masterpiece, he is now truly stronger than many gods. Tian began barking near Chuan's feet, and the blacksmith continued to report that he actually had 2 options. The first option is that he should leave now. He already has equipment worthy of the inheritance of the gods, so he should return when he grows up. Chuan asked again, looking at him, "What is the second option?" The blacksmith answered, "Second, he will have to risk his life to kill the rest of the gods who have lost their minds to enter the deepest palace. The goddess Vera rests there. All he needs to do is defeat her and unlock the boundaries she set. But if he dies at her hands, he may never be able to return to life." The system window reports that he has a hidden quest, an order from the gods. He must go into the depths of the temple, unlock the boundaries of faith, and free the gods in the temple. It is dangerous, extremely dangerous. If he fails, he will not be able to either leave the game or continue the game. Chuan widened his eyes in fear and thought that if he failed, he would disappear forever. The old man spoke out, "To be honest, he has great talent, and it would be unbearable to see him die. But the choice remains for him to go further or not." Chuan looked at his sword and turned to the old man and asked, "He has done so much for him, shouldn't he try? If he leaves here now, he may not have the opportunity to return later." Suddenly he smiled and shouted with confidence in his eyes, so he chooses the second option. Thank you for his kindness, and he will be back soon. Together with his dog Tian, he headed towards Virayat, while the old man looked after him and thought that this guy was quite gifted and determined. He can really kill Faith, but he doesn't want him to die. After some time, many people found themselves near the destroyed temple and shouted, "What a horror! The safe zone has collapsed. How will they play after this?" The other guy asked him what. He thinks that now he can quit the game. Death in this game is so real, and the feeling of becoming a zombie, he doesn't want to go through it again. The other guy confirmed that he did too. Why don't they just go offline this time, and then give it all up? It's just a game. Is it really necessary? The system told them that 10,000 people survived the Great Escape. 10 gold coins are distributed per person. The guys were thinking, 10 gold coins? That's like 100,000 in real life. Is there such a big reward for simply escaping a dungeon? The girl said that she seemed to have found a reason to continue playing. The system window reappeared in the sky and reported, "Here are the top 100 ratings for the entire service. The higher the rating, the better your reward. Place 100, name Hu Tao. This player has closed his profile. He is not public. Awarded, gold rank required level 10, constitution and strength 45, agility 65, 215, attack power 750. And a special skill is when he attacks an enemy from invisibility, he delivers an explosive blow." The World was the most popular online game in the Dragon Kingdom until the launch of Complete World. People around were wondering Hu Tao. He remembers that the king of assassins who dominated the world list was also called by that name, right? The king of assassins is only in place 100. Who is next? A guy in a white robe stretched out his hand and began to loudly shout that he, the Chenya Union, was offering 1 million a year for Mr. Ji Hutao to join them. Another asked, only 1 million? His Sangbi Union is ready to give 5 million. Another guy in a yellow robe shouted, 10 million, and he will take this man. The guy with pink hair said to the girl standing next to him, it turns out that with luck in this game, ordinary people really have a chance to change their destiny. She answered with tears in her eyes, yes, it's so easy to earn millions a year. It's so enviable. The system window reports location 20 is shown below. The girl's name is Wu Manko. This player has closed his profile. It is not public. The weapon is Chaos Staff, rank and epic. There is no level requirement. Only Chaos Elf can equip it. Dexterity, Magic, Constitution, Strength plus 100. Attack plus 1 and 200. Magic value plus 4,000. Attribute, this staff can only be equipped by Chaos Elves and has 5 forms. The owner can improve the staff by gaining experience in combat and spending magic value. Each time a person gains in epics, his properties improve significantly. Special skill, Chaos Blaster. Powerful chaos spells that deal 10,000 units of real damage to enemies within a radius of 1,000 m in front of a person. Lasts 60 minutes, consumes 10,000 mana. Place number 19 is presented below. This is a guy named Wu Zhen, rank 12, class, Thunder Giant special class, attack power 1,858, constitution 124, strength 135, agility 78, spirit 87, vitality 10,000, magic value 4,500 thunders, only special effect giant immunity to thunder magic, enhanced thunder power. The increase in strength and constitution will be doubled, and so will deal thunder damage. Damage taken is reduced by 30%, attack power is increased by 30%. The people around who saw the information panel data were wondering, Wu family, why the Wu family again? It looks like the family has gained a lot of strength this time. Meanwhile, in Pingcheng, in the capital of the Dragon Kingdom. Several guys gathered at one table. A guy in a formal suit with blue hair said, the Wu family from Pingcheng and the Lin family from the Magic City have always maintained good personal relationships with each other. The Wu family also played a role in the destruction of the 6 families in the Magic City. The other guy said, these 2 family members are still in such a high position, so in the future they should be more careful and polite with the Wu family. The system then reports a list of the top 5 best. Name Malin Mirong, rank 18, Immortal Sword class, Special class, Attack Power 3d 545, Constitution 145, Strength 165, Agility 174, to 198. Sword Fairy Unknown, cannot be determined at present. Reward, Recognition of the Gods, Type, Aura, Increase, Physique Strength Agility. Spirit, plus 150. He should gain the gratitude of the gods and increase his luck by 500 points with the help of the justice of the gods. Increases all attributes by 300 points. All damage taken is reduced by 50%. An unknown guy sat in front of the system window and said, the Mirong family, this secretive family has come after all. It's been over 600 years since this family was last seen. This time even they can't sit still, can they? He turned to his subordinate and asked him to tell his men to be careful and not provoke them with their insensitivity. He bowed and replied that he understood everything. After that, this man was approached by the next girl who was dressed in a pink suit with a short skirt. Her hair also looked unusual and was purple. She turned to the man and asked which sword fairy, and why is the Mirong family only in 5th place? Maybe they haven't shown their strength yet? The men asked her not to worry because the rating is not important to them. All of them have extraordinary abilities, and their attributes may not be determined by the game itself, but still it is better not to act until they know what they are doing now. Systems reports, followed by the top 3 best. The girl was surprised and asked, is this girl named King? The information panel does say that this is Lin King, rank 20, sealed class, unknown god, special class. Constitution, strength, agility, mentality, special skills unknown. Rewards, gods. This is the weapon of the gods for their reincarnation and may be able to help her recover quickly. Effect unknown. It seems that luck smiled on her too. Attention, first in the ranking. Everyone paid attention to this and decided that they would finally find out who was the best. What family is the player number 1 in the ranking from? The guy who was sitting at the table in Pingcheng jumped up and shouted, What? This is so unexpected. The man who was in the room with the purple-haired girl said, well, of course, who would doubt it? This is a guy named Chuan, rank 18, gender male, nationality dragon country. Raku class, Shadow Sharper, Ancient Maka, God of War, Elven Patron, Sage of Light. Titles, Lumberjack, Bobo, Treasure Hunter, Imprisoned. Talent, Master Caster. Constitution, 1 in 103, Strength, 1 in 155, Agility, 1 in 105, 2 in 145, Health, 79 in 200, Mana, 70 in 500, Attack, 25 in 400, Defense, 1 in 510, Skills, Kill an Arm, Kai Refining, Dragon Search. King was stunned by this news and screamed his name out loud when she saw the information panel in front of your face. Meanwhile, Chuan took steps along the corridor and leaned against the wall, saying, these are just a few remnants of souls, but it's still not easy to deal with them because they were once gods. If it weren't for the equipment that the old man made for him, he would already be dead. When he entered a room unknown to him, the question arose, where was he? Everything around him was illuminated with bright light, and also in the center between the huge pillars a huge magic stone was visible, which was hooked with chains that were brightly burning in a purple hue. He stopped and saw the goddess Faith inside the magic stone and asked, is it her? Suddenly a huge fist was directed at him from behind. He noticed this from afar and turned sharply in that direction, after which he took a defensive position and screamed loudly in horror. Thinking about this, he thought, with such equipment, he can ignore 90% of the damage, and the defense is more than 1,000. And this can hurt him? The system reports that the Kill an Arm has been activated. He began to fight with many huge hands attacking him when he suddenly stopped, after which he continued his sharp movements and began to destroy one hand after another. Vera opened her bright red-hot eyes and screamed, intruder. He disturbed her. And the information panel reports, name Faith, class unknown, condition heavily damaged, type divine, physique, strength, agility, spirit, attack power, defense, vitality unknown. Change of class, Shadow of the Shura. He wondered what kind of ability she had. Suddenly, a huge fragment began to fall right on him, and he managed to dodge it and escaped in the other direction. Finding himself behind Vera, she turned around and asked questions. Had he really disappeared? Do you need to kill him urgently? He was surprised by what was happening and shouted, can she really see him? After that, he suddenly began to fall to the ground with the wind and fell face first into the ground, breaking it into small pieces. Vera shouted at him to feel her anger. When he tried to rise, that system window informed him, attention, Faith sealed the entire space. The emptiness of space is about to collapse. If the player does not come out of the state of non-existence in time, he will die instantly. Vera asked him with a majestic expression on her face, does this mean he is not just invisible, but actually hiding in the void? Indeed, this is a commendable technique, but no matter how hard he tries, he cannot overcome it. She pointed her magic hand at him and screamed at him to die, after which a bright light explosion occurred in the place where he had been all this time, after which there was a lot of dust, and a moment later Vera saw a bright light in front of her and said that it was simply incredible. Couldn't that blow kill him? Chuan found himself under the protective dome of light opposite her in complete protection and looked at her thoughtfully with a serious expression on his face. This outfit gave him 3 chances to completely dodge the blows, which he thought would become his trump card when attacking. But now he has wasted 1 chance just to save his life. If this continues, he will definitely die. A bright stone glowed on her chest, which she covered with her hands, and magical waves and loud sounds began to be emitted from her. Chuan noticed dark waves spreading everywhere and wondered what was happening. Why didn't she continue to attack him? Was it his imagination, or was his body being torn apart? That's right, he remembers that her current state is badly damaged. He remembered her characteristics and thought with horror, this attack must have greatly overloaded her body. The system window also tells him, of course, the effect on the sets. All life points can be sacrificed so that all attributes are added into one. All individual attributes increased by 1000% and invulnerability for 5 seconds. After the effect, he will enter a state of near death. He rushed to attack her with the thought that in any case, this is his only chance. The set also has a life-threatening effect and converts all characteristics into strength. Now he will do it. He ran closer to her and quickly swung his hand and his sword, shouting loudly from the blow. Vera was attacked by his forces and was dumbfounded, after which she clenched her teeth in anger and retreated back. A bright ray of light flashed around the entire perimeter, and Faith screamed at him in horror. Where did he get such a weapon? This is simply impossible. Impossible. All the gods decided to go against her. Chuan stepped aside and began to scream loudly as many dark energy rays appeared around him. Vera continued to scream. Why is everyone betraying her? In the meantime, he grabbed his sword and moved to attack her once more with a feeling of wariness, and a moment later pierced the Faith right through the stomach. For a moment he was dumbfounded and did not move at all, after which Vera fell to the ground with her mouth open and left without arms and legs. She was completely destroyed. Magical streams from her body emanated directly into the sky. Chuan caught his breath, continuing to stand near her body for a moment, after which he said that it was all over. Suddenly, the system window reported a warning that she was about to die, wondering if this was her last stage. She continued to die and drops of tears rolled from her eyes straight to the ground. A white car is driving along a wide street in a magical city. Ling Xiaoqing is in the salon, talking on the phone and advising everyone to go to Zhu Chuan. They must also remember that they must not interfere with him and must stop anyone who wants to interfere. Having finished the conversation, she sighs heavily and thinks she could not even imagine that from an ordinary person he would turn into the one he is now. Perhaps in time, he will be able to stand on par with the Lin family. At such a moment, the family will not have any objection, right? At this time in Pingchan, in the house of the Wu family, the door to the hall opens and a happy male voice is heard. Zhen and Mank are wonderful guys. Then a young guy runs into the room and notes with a wide smile on his face that they both took good seats. This is a great achievement for their clan. She, sitting with him on the sofa and drinking a little wine from a glass, asks him to calm down. They have more important things to discuss with him. Then Wu Zhen and Wu Mank told their elder brother about their experiences. He eventually clarified, so in the game they met Chuan from the Magic City. Afterwards, placing his elbows on his knees, the guy continued thoughtfully, now that his power has been revealed, there must be many who have already begun to act. Even the people from above. Because the two of them have certain connections, and Mank and Ling Xiaoqing are close friends. Then they, the Wu family and the Ling family, must form an alliance. It's not too late, shouldn't go to the capital right now, and he will call the Ling family. The whole family will support them in this operation, so they must act. Jen, leaving together, Wu Mank calmly replied, okay. At the same time, a meeting is being held in the Dragon Building in the city of Pingchang. The gray-haired man at the head of the table sternly announces that the ranking among all worlds should be known to everyone. The main topic of their conversation today is Zhu Chuan, and you must tell them about this person. She immediately gets up from her seat and obediently answers, that's right, Zhu Chuan, the yield of the magical city, grew up in a family where 2 parents died. He had never interacted with family members before. 3 years ago, he fell in love with Ling Xiaoqing, a member of the Ling family. After they graduated from school, she announced her identity and asked him to join her family, but he refused. Later, for unknown reasons, Chuan remained associated with the 6 families, and Xiaoqing took action against the 6 families to protect him. Although the 6 families were insignificant, the Lin family also suffered greatly. The relationship between Ling Xiaoqing and Zhu Chuan ended. The man, after listening to this, notes, well, that's good. Now that the Chuan attribute panel has been published, all the clans are excited, even the Western powers. That's why they in the Dragon Group must act quickly. First, the most important in priority, they must ensure the safety of Zhu Chuan. Secondly, they should openly approach him and try to win him over, also give him feedback on any conditions he has. Thirdly, we need to find out more about him and send people to take his side and become his friends. Regarding the third point, Yi disguises herself well and is a woman, so she is the one who will have to complete this task. She saluted and replied, okay, she won't let you down. Finally, the gray-haired man said, when they go to the magical city, they should not be so careful to balance the power of families. They shouldn't let a few clans get into trouble. They must be alert and watch for the appearance of families, and if there are any special circumstances, then they must all report them immediately. Okay, the meeting is over. Let the mission begin. Everyone present immediately stood up from their seats and unanimously answered, that's right. In a tavern in the city at night, 3 customers were sitting at the bar while the blonde bartender was wiping glasses. He looked up at them and asked what they wanted to order. The girl with pink hair and a cowboy hat smiled and replied that she seemed to need a bottle of whiskey. The dark, muscular guy in the middle continued laughing and said that they also need a roast. He thinks everything should be festive. Finally, the blue-haired guy adjusted his glasses and replied that they also needed a copy of the white wine called the Dragon Kingdom Collection. The man put a glass of alcoholic drink on the table and noted that, looks like they all came prepared. He will convey the words to his friends in the shadows. But this time they could tell him the reason for the holiday. The guy with glasses who hands him the phone replies that he is sure that the bartender knows the guy who has been making noise in the Kingdom of Dragons lately. The blonde man replied with a serious frown that gentlemen shouldn't mess with this guy. The girl, looking at her nails, asked why. Is he very strong? The man explained no, before he entered the game, he had a 100 chance of killing this guy. But this time everything is different. He doesn't know what this game has brought him to. Moreover, this is the territory of the Lin family. And the daughter of this family is his ex-girlfriend. Now, when such an important event happened, it was the family that had to prepare for it. You may have already installed protection around the house. The athlete in the middle hits the table with his fist and exclaims, "What is this?" Order from higher-ups. The blue-haired guy calmly adjusts his glasses once again and notes that he expected this. Now all the agents in the Dragon Kingdom are on their way. This time they must work together. After all, on this mission, the order from above was that even if they lost all their troops, they still had to destroy him. At this time, he is holding the phone in his hand, carefully looking at the photo of Zhu Chuan on the screen. A white car arrives at Chuan's residence in the Magic City. Zioking, who is sitting in the car, puts her hand to her ear to better hear the sound through the headphones. Someone tells her that the northern airport has landed. Looks like someone from the Wu family in Pingchan. Many families in Jinling have moved, and they are probably heading to the magical city. The southern city has also moved, should they invite Chen Lao. What will she say? She strictly orders that all those who retreated come out. She sees that many people have come this time, perhaps they want Zhu Chuan's life. Some of them may even try to take advantage of their clan. It's time to let them meet their clan's trump card. In a prison cell, with shackles on her hands, a girl with bright red hair sits against the wall. She opens her green eyes, and instantly opening the door, she goes outside. Stretching her numb hands, she yawns and says out loud how long did she sleep. Afterwards, with a sly smile, she clarifies why the girl woke her up this time. When Zioking gets out of the car, a voice comes through her headphones again. Yang Lin has already left. But it seems that after a sound sleep, she lost control, and her mind destroyed the entire western part of the estate. She notes that there is nothing wrong with this. She has not left the cell for too long, so she can stretch her muscles and come in. But after this, her interlocutor says in shock, the Namguang clan struck them. Ling Zioking asks in shock, Namguang clan, did they come to all clans or just one person? But suddenly a hiss is heard in the headphones, and then another voice says, it's Namguangzu. Zioking, shocked, asks again, is it her? SBE continues talking. Zioking should listen to her. The world has changed so much, many hidden clans have appeared. It seems that Zhu Chuan is a big commodity that everyone has started hunting for. But Ling Zioking says that she is the one who knows. What does he have to do with them? Namguangzu answers her and asks her not to worry. Her clan sent her to protect this kid. But she wants to warn her to be on her guard. Ling Zioking, looking up, replies that she is glad that Zhu is on their side. She is grateful for this too. She will be careful. And now she must connect her with her clan. Namguangzu notes that you are still meditating. Zioking insists that this time the matter is serious. The future of the Lin family depends on his decision. Zhu agrees, okay, she understood everything, now everything will happen. Soon, an elderly man with long gray hair and a beard clarifies, what is this serious matter for which Ling Zioking distracted him from meditation? She apologizes, she didn't want to disturb her grandfather's peace. The old man remarks, well, he's heard about all this commotion that's going on. She wants to discuss that guy with him, doesn't she? She agrees, that's right. Grandpa then replies that she doesn't need to worry too much. Being in a magical city, they will not be able to change the course of events. A plane arrives at the western airport of the magical city. A blue-haired girl is walking along the gangway, accompanied by 2 guards. When she enters the lobby of the building, she enthusiastically looks around every corner, while the guards try to keep up with her everywhere. After that, she calms down and says with a smile, the magical city is so amazing. Why wasn't she here before? But suddenly she looks up and is very surprised. The man extends his big hand to her and explains that the guest of the Zio clan from the southern city should stay here. She clarifies the Lin clan, it seems, but knows him. He is the same person. The man snaps his fingers and continues with a smile, Ling clan assistant, Ling Han. The blue-haired girl cheerfully agrees, yes, Han, the same one who was almost killed by the Ling clan. So, he wanted to die today at the hands of her clan. The guards behind her immediately signal to each other, and the bald man puts his hand into the inner pocket of his jacket. Ling Han, towering over her with glowing red eyes, exclaims, just because he detained her here does not mean that they should try to kill him. The girl smiles embarrassedly and tries to calm him down. It was just a joke. At this moment, she mentally makes a note that since this territory belongs to the Lin clan, it is better not to conflict with them for now. Afterwards, she tries to bring the conversation into a positive atmosphere and, spreading her arms to the sides, asks, so this is how the Lin clan greets guests. Do they detain everyone at the airport? Han immediately points his hand towards the glass doors and replies that she need not worry. He remembers that the Ling clan officially invited the Zio clan to Magic City. Since they're coming, why don't they go and wait at their mansion? She is dissatisfied and clenches her teeth and answers, okay, she's never been there, now is the best time to check it out. He lets her through along with the guards, smiling and exclaims, he asks to follow her forward. The girl grunted dissatisfied and walks forward, loudly stomping her feet. At the same time, a girl with long pink hair in a red dress, a red wide-brimmed hat, a mask and sunglasses comes out of the eastern airport of the magical city. Having stopped a taxi, she sits in the back seat and explains that she needs to go to the main square of the magical city. The car is driving along the highway, and the driver, trying to start a conversation with her, clarifies that she comes from the southern city, right? And for the first time here? The girl, looking out the window, reluctantly explains that this is the second time she has been here. Her boyfriend works in this city, but he is usually very busy, and she has to visit him on her own. The brunette chuckles and notes that life is not easy for young people these days. She agrees, that's for sure. But suddenly she exclaims, stop. This road does not lead to the main square of the magical city, does it? He must stop the car now. The man driving chuckles and explains that she misunderstood everything. He takes a detour because the main road is too congested. She doesn't have to worry, she won't have to pay extra. But the girl takes out a pistol from a holster tied to her leg and, holding it forward, screams, he is not a taxi. He must admit who he is. The man immediately apologizes if she allows. He will introduce himself. His name is Lin Kun. He is a member of the Lin clan. She asks again, Lin clan. What business does this clan have with her? Kun repeats that she shouldn't worry. Her Sioux clan is one of the best. They won't do anything to her. It's just that his clan doesn't want them to get into the Magic City's sofa. The girl sighs heavily and explains that she never even thought that someone would try to catch her. It looks like the Ling clan was playing it safe this time. Lin Kun explains that there is no information in this capital that the Lin clan does not know. This time even the elders are getting in on the action. They, servants, can only carry out orders efficiently. If the elder said that the sky cannot be turned over, then no one will ever be able to do it. After some time, they arrive at their destination and walk into the spacious hall of the house, where people have already gathered. The girl with the dissatisfaction next to her looks forward, when suddenly someone's voice is heard nearby. It's so boring. A blue-haired girl lying on a massage chair and picking her teeth with a toothpick asks if they at least have some board games here. Well, opening her eyes and looking to the side, she asks in surprise, what? Did they invite people from the Sioux clan too? But Kun notes that this is not so. They came on their own. Afterwards he leaves and tells them one last time to stay here. He thinks they have a lot of things to discuss. If they need anything, they can simply call him. He will be their personal servant and escort while he is not in the capital. The wild-haired girl, sitting down on a chair, agrees, okay. As soon as he leaves, the younger girl immediately hugs her and joyfully exclaims, Pingting. They caught her too, right? She tries to push her away and asks what she means by caught. They invited them here as guests. But the blue-haired girl does not agree. No, they caught them like wild animals and keep them like in a zoo. This is so unfair. She came to the capital and has to sit locked up here. Isn't this a mockery? But suddenly a voice is heard next to them. It can't be. What kind of people? Turning around, they do not see Wu Mank along with Wu Zhen. She notes that she thought that they were the only clan that was invited here. Pingting wonders, is this the Wu clan? When Mank and Jen sit down in the chair opposite, she notes that she knows them. The youngest girl from the Zio clan, Zio Mio Meow, and the most talented girl from the Su clan, Su Painting. It's strange that the Su clan never showed it. Why did they let her come here then? She invites them to be here without unnecessary chatter. She is sure that they are all here for the same reason. She knows that the Wu clan has always had good relations with the Ling clan. I wonder if they know anything about this situation. Wu Mank answers with a smile, but since they asked, then she, on behalf of their clan, will express her point of view. They need Zhu Chuan, whatever he is, alive in any case, and they will need to meet him. Their conversations are currently being monitored by an elder through a special monitor. He puts his hands behind his back and says thoughtfully, "Some of them saw him. What is he like?" Then turns to the people standing behind him. The blonde is the first to answer that they don't care about the relationship between the clans, they just need to gather more people. What was the purpose of Elder Lin calling them all here? Clarifies, didn't they understand? The guy with glasses says that he can be sure that their granddaughter is not related to this clan. If Zhu Chuan joins the organization, sooner or later he will be able to help his clan. He knows that the organization rarely accepts people with family connections. The man agrees, it's true. But pressing the device on his wrist also adds that this is not the main problem right now. After clicking, many translucent blue screens appear in front of them, depicting different people in different locations of the city. The blonde exclaims in horror, "It can't be." Lin explains that there are rats in the magical city. Their goal is the life of Zhu Chuan. Moreover, people from hidden clans also take part in this. He can't stop them all. The guy bows and says that now he understands why the elder gathered them all. Then turning to the others, he extends his hand forward and orders Enyi to go to Chuan and protect him even at the cost of his own life. If something happens, then she must report everything to him and make sure that the guy is safe. Lin, who should report the situation to his superiors and ask that the spirit and darkness teams be brought here. They both exclaim in unison, "It will be done." Elder Lin, after observing him, notes that the young man has good intelligence. If so, then he will leave everything to him. Small drops of water fall from somewhere above and land directly on Zhu Chuan's face, causing him to wake up. Slowly you opened your eyes. The first thing he asks is, "Where is he?" But clutching his head, Chuan remembers exactly, he fought with Vera. Further, he is shocked again when, examining the palms, he exclaims, "Where is it early? Is he really dead?" In the hall, two guys grabbed each other by the collars of their shirts and shouted irritably, "It was you who killed him." Another man lies on the floor next to him, choking from the foam flowing from his mouth. Lin Kun, squeezing through the crowd, asks what's going on. After that, he separates the two guys, but they still continue to fight. The red-haired man is indignant. Their clans were at enmity, which means he killed him. But the brunette tells him that he is a fool. His clan would never act so vilely. It seems he is the killer. Another girl in a purple dress and hair tied up in a high bun screams what the Lin clan want to do to them. They locked themselves here for reasons unknown to them and promised to provide them with safety. What now? Suddenly someone appears and throws two arguing guys to the sides with one blow. Afterwards he clarifies to the blonde, "It's Lin Kun, right?" His master instructed him to take up this matter. He asks confusedly, "Is he like that?" The man introduces himself. He is from a team called Dragon, Chen Suo. Then Kun replies that he understands everything. He will immediately order people to block the entrance to the house and count the number of people in the building. At this moment, he also mentally notes that there could be no mistake. The direction from which he just came is the secret room of the ancestors. He did not expect that people with power had already arrived. But suddenly someone contacts him through headphones and reports that the Zhu and Bai clans have arrived. The Aoyang clan has arrived. The Zio clan is missing. Yu's clan is gone. The Su clan is missing. Lin Kun bows to Mo and says that important clans ran away during the commotion, so he will immediately send someone to find them. But Chen Mo explains that this is of no use. All these clans have gathered here for one purpose. Someone from the Dragon Squad has already set out, or whatever it is, to look after this place. At this time, the four of them are walking through the streets of the city, and Maya Miao says enthusiastically she didn't expect that everything would go so smoothly. The guys are just something. But Wu Chen tells her not to be too happy for the food, only they took advantage of the opportunity to escape, and it won't be so easy for them to get to Zhu Chuan. Maybe someone else wants to take his life. Hearing this, she frowns and clarifies what the big man means. Does he suspect that she is here to kill him? Jen replies that everyone knows about their relationship with the Ling clan. We can say that this is not excluded. Zio Maya Meow wants to rush at him screaming he's an idiot, but Su Pingting manages to grab it and puts it in his mouth and asks her to be quiet. She hums while Wu Mank watches them carefully from afar. The next moment, without saying a word, they use their abilities and pushing off with their feet from the ground and then jumping from the walls of buildings to the roof. She looks down and sees the guards shouting loudly faster. They need reinforcements. When Wu Zhen approaches her and puts his hand on her shoulder, she excitedly exclaims, "What happened to Zioking?" He calms her down and asks her not to worry. She is in the capital, so everything will be fine. They must not be allowed to be found. Mio Meow at this time activates her abilities, and looking at them notes that it's so troublesome. Soon, when she manages to open a special screen, Zhen, coming up with Wu Mank, asks, "What is this?" She adds that all the cells in the city must be under the rule of the Lin clan. But Zio Maya Meow explains that it is not the image scanner, but her power. Are they now convinced that they can trust her? The screen displays a written dialogue between Ling Kun and Ling Zioking. He announces that the Wu, Zio, and Su clans have disappeared from the estate. If there is no serious business, then they will most likely head to her. She replies that she understood everything. How are things going inside the estate? Kun replies that the Kyu family has lost one person, everyone else is fine. Now there are people with power here, and Chen Mo from the Dragon Squad is helping to control the situation, it seems, on the orders of the Elder. Zioking, hearing this, wonders, is the Dragon Squad. Grandfather decided to combine his strength with power. Then she replies that she understands everything. Finally, she orders him to remain on the estate. She still has unfinished business. In response, Lin Kun obediently replies yes. At this time, she is watching a fight between a dark-skinned guy and another dark-haired man. The guy notes that in front of him was once number 9 on the list of killers, a raging wind. He never thought that he would become such a pitiful errand boy for the Lin clan. The raging wind rushes at him screaming, "Less words, more action." Then the brunette instantly increases in size and mockingly looks at how the wind is trying to somehow defeat him with a blow. After that, the guy raises his fist to hit, but he instantly jumps to the side and sends an energy wave in his direction. The brunette first covers himself with his hands and then begins to scream furiously. But the raging wind takes advantage of the moment and attacks from above. A moment later, the guy is defeated. Zioking notes that the wind did a good job. It was not bad. He stretches his shoulder and says that there was no problem. Suddenly, someone's laughter is heard nearby. Who they see, he thought the Lin clan was much more capable. Ling Zioking and the Raging Wind turn around to see a squad of several people wearing black robes, sunglasses, and masks. Each of them has 2 sharp swords in their hands, and a blue-haired guy walks at the head. He angrily continues to say, "It seems this mission is not as dangerous as he thought." And much more, they can see how long the 2 of them can last. But suddenly young Lin attacks him from above, causing him to instantly fall to the ground. She addresses him contentedly. "So what is this? They only know what to say, yes? If so, then she would like to ask them for something. They shouldn't die too quickly." Wu Zhen, who was watching this through the screen along with everyone else, asked in shock, "Did Zioking really let her out?" Mio Meow turned to him and asked what he meant. "Is this girl very cool? She looks quite young. How old is she? 13 or 14? But he crosses his arms and answers sternly, "No. She must be around 40 now." Only her memory and mind have been stuck at that age for so long that she spends most of her time dozing. Zio Maya Meow suddenly remembers, wait, is it really Yang Lin? The only surviving representative of the Forbidden Clan. Jen confirms this, yes, she is the one who lost control and killed her entire clan. The Yang clan was once a forbidden plane that had some of the best fighters in the world, but they all died at her hands. Only the Ling clan took control of it. Having already dealt with all the armed people, Lin, with red burning eyes, mockingly asks, "Is this all they can do?" She didn't even have fun, but suddenly she turns around, frowning, and asks who it is. But seeing in front of a blue-haired guy and a girl with a cowboy hat on her head, who had 2 daggers in her hands, she noted that they were daredevils. The girl immediately rushed to meet her, but Yang Lin said with a crazy smile, and it was still slow. When the hairy girl gets close to her, she grabs her by the neck and screams, "She caught her. Caught it. She caught it." But the girl shows the same crazy smile, and while soft pink petals are falling on them from above, energy waves spread out to the side. Lin freezes, eyes wide. Zhu Chuan moves through the endless dark space when he suddenly sees a girl ahead. Approaching, he notes, is it her? Vera lies curled up in front of him. Suddenly, she opens her eyes, and when she rises, she emits a bright light. He begins to close his eyes and suddenly sits down in his chair and screams. Raising his hand, Chuan asks out loud, is he home? He didn't die. But why does he have the feeling that something is pressing on his legs? Looking forward and seeing her again, he says, Vera. Zio, Mio, Meow, and everyone else are looking at the screen and wondering why they stopped. Wu Mank adds, Yong Lin will just die like that. At this time, a knife sticks out from Lin's back. The hairless girl shining from behind, holding the handle, mockingly notes that she is strong, but too self-confident. But does he really think that she can't be killed? Yong Lin only calmly replies, the scent of these leaves. The girl is shocked when suddenly a black hole appears at the site of the impact. Lin gets up and exclaims loudly, but it wants her hand. Then she uses her abilities, and the girl's arm is enclosed in a purple cloud up to her elbow. The next moment her scream is heard, hand, where is the hand? Splashes of blood fly to the side. Yon Lin's wound absorbs the body part that was just torn off. She says terribly, what should she have a snack now? The same knife blade appears from her left hand, and the hairy girl says in horror, this is impossible. Her heart should have been pierced like a dagger. Is she a monster? Suddenly, they are interrupted by a blue-haired guy who has been standing aside all this time. He heads towards them and loudly announces enough. He wants to introduce himself. His name is Cloverdo, and he is a Varan from the west. The beautiful lady must spare his subordinates. If she wants, she will gladly take her place as her opponent. But Yong Lin easily throws the dagger to the girl's side and replies that she doesn't care who she fights with as long as they can give her pleasure. The guy shouldn't disappoint her. Lavida grows in size as she approaches her and his clothes are torn. He notes that he would like to tell her something. She shouldn't die too quickly. Zioking, who has been watching from the side all this time, mentally notes that this is the #1 killer in the West, the Hand of Hell, Cloverdo. What will happen to his body? She had never met a human werewolf before. When he quickly walks around Lin from behind, she gritted her teeth and agreed, it's fast. Cloverdo kicks her, throwing up the air, and then jumping up, hitting Yong Lin in the stomach, causing her to immediately fly down, hitting the asphalt and breaking it. Cloverdo flies towards her with his arm outstretched, and in the next moment an explosion occurs. He rises to his feet and slowly leaves, saying, it's a pity. Now it seems to him that he is much stronger than the Lin clan. But behind him laughter is heard. Lin, approaching him, repeats, it's a pity. He was almost able to kill her. After that she plunges her hand into his body, and rustling his heart says, but now he has no chance. The next moment, only Cloverdo's dying cry is heard. The guys in black robes, hearing this, quickly rise to their feet and run away, at the same time shouting, they must run away faster. Monsters. Cloverdo is dead. Ling Zioking quickly reacts and orders through the earpiece, it is necessary to fence off the area and not allow anyone to leave. People in green uniforms immediately jump down from the roof of the building. Su Pingting, watching this with the others from the roof, notes that even though the target is close, it seems that it will be impossible to pass through them. Zio Maya Miao turns to Wu Zhen and asks what should they do now. She doesn't want to go back to the Lin clan. He answers with crossed arms that all they can do is wait. At this time, a girl with blue hair approaches the door of one of the apartments and says into the earphone, she has good bad news. Which one does she want to hear first? A female voice responds by asking Zhu not to waste time. She quickly replies, okay, the good news is that Zhu Chuan is safe and sound. The girl, the interlocutor, clarifies, what is the bad news then? Namguang Zhu replies that the bad news is that there is a girl with him now. A female voice says in surprise that. She chuckles and says with a smile, it seems like this is a big shock for her. But suddenly Zhu turns around and sees a purple glow behind him and notes that this is an aura. It seems that someone finally escaped and managed to get here. At this time, Vera opens her eyes and, looking at Chuan in surprise, asks who. And where are they? He wonders, does she remember anything? No, that's not the point. How was the NPC in the complete world able to return with him in reality? Also in this form. Then he sighs, and handing her the t-shirt asks her to wear it. A couple of minutes later, Vera's voice is heard, so who is he? Zhu Chuan clarifies, does she really remember nothing at all? But she also begins to cry and asks again who she is. He just looks at her, and Vera adds that he can't remember anything. Then Chuan asks her not to cry. She gradually calms down, and he says in confusion she shouldn't worry, over time she will remember everything. At the same time, he thinks that he seriously does not know what to do in such situations. Vera looks at him to clarify. He knows her name, right? He explains yes. When he says her name, she begins to write glowing hieroglyphs in the air and asks again Vera. Chuan, watching her in shock, thinks, is this magic? But they are now in the real world. Suddenly she snickers and exclaims, what an ugly name, she doesn't like it. He leans towards Vera and notes that he doesn't like it. Then what about Waina? The hieroglyphs in the air change to this exact name, and she agrees she really likes it. Friend, a rumbling sound is heard from her stomach, and Chuan leans over to clarify, does she want to eat? Okay, she should wait a little. He will now prepare her his signature dish. After a while, when he stands in the kitchen, he opens the information panel and thinks out loud. He has not received any information from the outside world since he went to the secret kingdom of faith. It turns out that so much happened during this time. The information panel features Ling Xiaoqing. Her rank is 20. Her class is sealed by an unknown god, a special class. Physique, strength, agility, mentality, special skills are classified. She has the reward of the Scepter of the Gods. This is the weapon of the gods before their reincarnation, and may be able to help her quickly recover. The effect is also classified. Chuan, having become acquainted with the information, says it really shines wherever it appears. But since Vera was able to get into reality and use magic outside the game, I wonder if he can do that. He then suddenly extends his right arm and exclaims, Fireball! But there is only silence in the room, and he bashfully notes that apparently this does not work with him. But suddenly some kind of radiance appears, and Chuan, raising his hand, asks, were they sparks? Must try again. Fireball! His palms immediately burst into flames, and he says contentedly, it worked. At this time, a girl in blue shoes climbs the stairs, and a voice in her headphones asks her not to enter. It's not safe here. Lin, the chief steward of the Lin clan, walks along the paved path past guys in green uniforms who are helping each other heal from their wounds. Lin notes that logisticians have already dealt with the lost case. But where is Ling Xiaoqing? One of the men replies that perhaps she went there alone. He immediately screams, they're not completely crazy. Who dared to let her go there alone? Should not immediately go there, find her and protect her. The soldiers immediately run away in fear and answer, yes. Sometime later, when they arrive at a snow-white multi-story building, Lin mentally notes the last time the Lin family suffered so much because of him. What secrets does this Chuan hide in his body? Yang Lin, who is behind him, is like a real child and clarifies, where is Xiaoqing now? He points his finger at the entrance to the building and explains that she went there on her own. Lin doesn't want to look for her. She doesn't seem to be able to cope at all. Yang Lin immediately replies happily, okay. At this time, Ling Xiaoqing crosses her arms and thinks irritably, it can't be. She gathered her entire clan to protect him. And here he is relaxing with some girl. As she enters the elevator, she strongly thinks that she must look him in the eye in person. But suddenly a man in a white suit and a black hat comes out of the elevator to meet her, and handing her a blue rose says, he is glad to meet such a beauty. Xiaoqing accepts the rose, but at the same time wonders who it is. She ordered the entire building to be blocked. The blonde raises his hat in greeting and says, although he thinks in their case, it's better to say that he's glad to see her again. With these words, he completely throws his headdress to the side. Ling Xiaoqing suddenly shouts loudly, Cloverdo. But shouldn't he be dead? He replies that it upsets him that she actually thinks that the person with the title hand of hell is a person. After all, he is not so weak that he would be killed the first time. She warily replies that she understood it. Now she realizes why there are so many strange rumors about him. He says with a smile that he actually thought his team would last much longer. Who knew that she had a monster like Yang Lin hidden away? It seems to him that he knows little about creatures like her. Lin was born to kill, but Xiaoqing naively thinks that he can control her. Sooner or later, Yang Lin will still destroy the entire Lin clan and the entire magical town. In the West, she calls such people Purifiers. Ling Xiaoqing appears flustered by his words, but doesn't show it and asks if he seems to be good at understanding them. Claverdo answers, of course, because he is also a Purifier. The next moment, he reaches out to her with his huge hand, and Xiaoqing looks at him in shock and freezes in place. But suddenly Lin appears, pushing it away and shouting for Ling Xiaoqing to be careful. A blast wave hits the sides, and Yang Lin flies back, and she is caught by Xiaoqing, who immediately asks, is she okay? Lin immediately tells her to leave quickly. This guy is very dangerous. Cloverdo, approaching them again, notes, do they really think that he will let them go so calmly? He moved this building into his space so that no one will disturb them. He believes Yang Lin doesn't even suspect that they are specifically born into this world to purify it. They were given the mission to kill from the very beginning. They are a continuation of the will of this world. They have unlimited potential. She should join them so she doesn't have to suppress her powers anymore. Lin asks in confusion, should she join? Cloverdo, with a crazy smile, asks again. He understood correctly that she wants to destroy this world, yes. She shouldn't be shy and give free rein to her strength and do what she wants. Yang Lin, looking at her palms, as if under hypnosis, says, destroy. Xiaoking, seeing her condition, exclaims loudly, she should not listen to him. But Lin creates an attraction around her and says with red glowing eyes, it sounds fun. He snaps his fingers and notes, that's right, she shouldn't give up. Yang Lin, heading towards him, is added, then she will start with him. But when it flies through his body, Cloverdo explains that this will not work. They are in his space, so until he wants to, no attack will affect him. Her first target is over there. Isn't she the one who has been limiting her all these years? With these words, he points his real finger towards Ling Xiaoking. Lin immediately grabs his head and screams loudly. Then, looking forward, she says through clenched teeth, Xiaoking. But still, having managed to control her body, she clenches her fist, and hitting Cloverdo screams again, he must leave her behind. He just mockingly asks if she really doesn't want to join her after all. What a pity. Well then, it's worth dying for. Yang Lin is immediately thrown back by the blast wave as she screams. As Lin falls face down on the floor, he makes a mental note of how quickly she recovered. Is it really possible that no attack can kill her? Looks like she used all her strength when she fought him on the street. Afterwards, waving his hand, he adds, it's a pity, but now she is in his power. Now they will see how much attack she can withstand. But the very next moment, there is an explosion that throws him back. Cloverdo, looking forward, confusedly says, what is this? Zhu appears in front of him and apologizes to Xiaoking for being a little late. He asks irritably, is she from the hidden clan? Although, even if she is from there, she has no chance against him. They are all in his space now. But she just smiles and notes, no longer. After Namgyuan, Zhu raises her knife up and, as if breaking the space into pieces, notes that now this space does not exist. Cloverdo looks around in shock, and disappearing into the portal that appears, he finally says, this can't be. But she screams at him to stop. With these words, Zhu swings his sword, directing an attack into the portal. The next second, blood flies out, and a loud scream is heard. Ling Xiaoking clarified, is he dead? But she replies that not yet, he was simply cut with a sword. It would be extremely difficult to kill such a creature. Yang Lin, calmly rising on his elbows, clarifies, hidden clan? What power did she use? Namguang Zhu, shaking her head negatively, replies that she doesn't have to look at her like that, she won't be able to master this method. After some time, they all go up the elevator together and Xiaoking clarifies, did she anger her on purpose? Okay, she will forgive her, because she saved them. What happened to Zhu Chuan? Zhu crosses his arms and sadly replies, in fact, she doesn't know the details, but the girl appeared in his room out of nowhere. She doesn't pose any threat yet, but she feels that the girl's body contains a terrifying power. Ling Xiaoking says thoughtfully, if she says it, then it means something. Suddenly, the elevator door opens, and they see Annie standing in front of them with a spear. She clarifies, Xiaoking. She is from the Dragon Squad. She has already met her grandfather. He ordered them to deal with Chuan's case and not protect her. Ling Xiaoking calmly replies, well, since this is an order from Grandpa, then she doesn't care. At this moment, she, on the contrary, is very angry and thinks, this cannot be. Why would Zhu Chuan be surrounded by so many girls? When they get off at the floor they need, Yi, walking ahead of everyone, asks them not to worry, she will let them meet him. At this time, Zhu Chuan sits on the bed while Wai Na hugs him, and a green glow emanates from them. He asks what she is doing. She replies that she helps him feel that there is something inside his body, and it is bad. If measures are not taken in time, his body may suffer greatly. He was supposed to die, but for some reason some force protected him. And it's familiar to her, but she seems to hate it. Chuan confusedly clarifies, what is she talking about? But when Na continues to hug him, he thinks, oddly enough, he really felt that he felt much better after her procedure. She simply said that he should have died. Does this mean that his near-death experience in the game affects his reality? But why not? He understands in any case, she must have just treated him with her powers. It's strange for her, he's a stranger whom she just met. But when the doorbell rings, he asks in confusion, who is it? All the girls appear in the door peephole at once, and Annie announces that the Dragon Squad has received orders to protect it. When she alone enters inside his apartment, Chuan clarifies those who are outside and need to be let in. He tells him to ask them to wait a little, she needs to discuss something with him in private too. Chuan, looking at her, thoughtfully rubs his chin and clarifies with some suspicion, is she really from the Dragon Squad? She said she was here to keep him safe. Is he in danger now? Anne. He hands him the card and explains that this is her ID, she can take a look at it. As for his safety today, his ex-girlfriend brought almost the entire Ling clan to this apartment to stop nearly 600 Westerners who wanted to kill him. Chuan, having examined the ID, notes that he cannot believe it. Is it true? But he calmly walks through the apartment and explains that now he doesn't need to worry. This is unlikely to happen again in the near future. Before coming here, the headquarters found some information about him. According to intelligence, he had no relationships with girls after breaking up with Ling Xiaoqing. Stopping in front of the bed in which Wai Na was sleeping, she clarified, "Then who is this girl?" Chuan suddenly shouted loudly that this was his new girlfriend. Ini, wiping the saliva from his face, asks again exactly. Her advice is that he shouldn't shout so loudly. Otherwise others may hear it. Immediately there is a loud knock on the door and Xiaoqing's scream is heard. He's a freak. At this time she is trying to kick down the door and screaming for him to come to her now. Zhu holds her shoulders with all his might and tells her that she needs to calm down. He sits down on the sofas and continues to talk. She knows that he has many questions for her. They all start with complete world. Chuan asks again, complete world? We cross our legs with a smile and tell him, that's right, this is not just a game. About 10 years ago, countries around the world recorded a strange signal. At first, they thought it was an alien life form, but after much research, it was discovered that it was a signal from another world. And this signal contained an important message for them. In 10 years, they are destined to unite with their world. The atmosphere, the earth, and all living beings will be united into one. Chuan is shocked when he hears this and excitedly repeats, after 10 years, isn't this coming soon? So Complete World was launched recently. But how do they know that the signal was not fake? And he explains that at first they actually had doubts about this. But recently more and more people are discovering that they have special abilities, and the planets they are on gradually begin to change. The countries of the world are beginning to understand that the message was true and the mergers of the worlds cannot be interrupted. On the one hand, the authorities of their world did not want to cause panic among the population and wanted them to gradually get used to the new world. On the other hand, the authorities wanted to get resources from another world. Therefore, they developed a complete world, a game that merges two dimensions. And he, as the #1 player in the game's ranking, becomes the main threat to other countries. She knows he hates being told what to do, but right now he has no other choice. He must join them and fight for the resources of the complete world, and most importantly for his life. Chuan, hearing this, thinks about it. He did not expect that everything would turn out this way. Initially, he just wanted to diversify his daily life with the help of this game. And now he has the power to change fate. The world is about to change. Since there is no longer a way to stop the merging of worlds and the possibility of future wars is quite high, now you can't just sit still. Therefore, clenching his fist, he decisively announces that he agrees. But what exactly does he need to do? Yi, grinning contentedly and looking at him, explains that in short, the authorities are very interested in his potential. All he needs to do now is pass a series of their tests and join the Dragon Squad. After he becomes part of them, they will not provide him with all the necessary resources and will train him. All he had to do for now was to stay close to her and not join any clan, including the Ling clan. But they will not prevent him from communicating with friends or relatives. Chuan bows politely, answering, he understood everything, it's not you who will be attentive. He is grateful that she told him everything. As for Na, he hopes that she can give him a little more time, because there are still many things that he doesn't understand either. And he spreads his hands to the sides, answers kindly of course, she is in no hurry to find out who this girl is, but he will have to think about how he will explain everything to his ex. At this moment, Chuan feels a wave of fear and realizes that he almost forgot about it. But then he adds, by the way, he wanted to ask, when he joins the Dragon Squad, Will his status and the status of his clan change somehow? He gets up from the couch and explains that part of their role is to monitor the movements of all the clans and make sure they are not doing anything unusual. In short, if he joined the Dragon Squad, his status would be even higher than Ling Xiaoking's, so he would be able to communicate with her on equal terms. Zhu Chuan, remaining satisfied with this information, hooted. Wai Na suddenly wakes up, rubbing his eyes sleepily. He asks in a friendly way, is she awake? Na immediately says she wants to eat. He wonders why she is hungry again. She just ate just recently. Afterwards, he turns to Annie passing by and notes that he can't help her. But she reassures him she will be right outside the door. He should call her if he needs anything. Having walked a little further, she immediately touches the earphone with her hand and then says she sent him a video of the conversation. This needs to be analyzed and updated information as soon as possible. After a while Chuan is preparing food for Wai Na, a system screen appears next to him and it announces that Ling Xiaoking is calling him. He, answering the call, coldly asks what. She imitates him and replies displeasedly, he must open the door, she wants to help him with cooking. Sometime later, when she was already standing near the kitchen unit and chopping herbs, she noted out loud that the old hot sauce had long since run out. There is a new refrigerator in the right corner. Zhu Chuan, who was standing near the open refrigerator at that time, is very surprised, but looking in the direction where she pointed him, he exclaims he found it. Approaching Xiaoking, he asks with a sincere smile how does she know this? She, without being distracted from cooking, replies that she lived with him for 3 years, so she got used to it. He shouldn't worry, she doesn't follow his life. Just today, for his safety, she received an order to look at his house. There was really nothing in the refrigerator, and there was a lot of unwashed grease in the kitchen. And his clothes are wrinkled, it looks like his life is as good as he wanted it to be. Zhu Chuan shyly puts his hand to his face and makes excuses, he's just not used to this. But then, he wonders, is everything that Annie told him true? Ling Xiaoking confirms this, many killers from the west have arrived today. They are by no means weak, her clan suffered great losses. He shouldn't feel guilty, it's her clan that owes him. She admits that what her grandfather did was wrong. He uses him as bait to play hardball and lure the 6 clans into participating. But Chuan raises his hand, interrupting her, okay, they should forget about it, doesn't want to talk about it now. But she insists the world is about to change, she doesn't know what will happen in the future, and what will happen to the Ling clan. The next moment she abruptly approaches him, and adds that this is why she wants to do what she could not afford to do before. As soon as she finishes her sentence, Zhu Chuan immediately. Next, Xiaoking whispers in his ear that between the Ling clan and him, she will choose him. He blushes, but still hugging her, he reminds her that her grandfather will be against it, she is the future of her clan. There are a lot of people in this, you can't ignore them to explore only your own desires. Ling Xiaoking put his head on his chest and says plaintively she doesn't know, she can't think of anything right now. He should know that she never lied to him. No matter who he is, she still loves him. Zhu Chuan feels sorry for her, and he mentally concludes that, next to him, she can sometimes be like a little child. But as the eldest daughter of the Lin clan, she must always remain rational and make the best possible choices. After that, he pushes her aside and, putting his arm around her shoulders with a smile, announces, okay, he will help her with everything he can. But she must know he will not be able to return to the Ling clan. Ling Xiaoking happily tells him that they have agreed. Now, I have to explain one thing to her. What is a girl doing in his house? Immediately after her words, the atmosphere between them becomes tense. When Zhu Chuan is setting up a small coffee table, Wai Na is sitting on the sofa, swinging her legs happily and saying, eat, eat, eat. Xiaoking points his finger at her displeasedly and asks, she was a teenager before, how come she turned into a child in the blink of an eye? Chuan, confused, says that in fact, he doesn't know either. Well, you need to calm down, she's sitting on the sofa, her little legs don't even touch the floor. He won't even touch such a little girl. Does she believe him? After delicious tea and lunch, Ling Xiaoking wipes Na's mouth as she announces that she is full. But unexpectedly for them, Annie's voice is heard outside the door. Their squad will be here soon, so they should get ready. Zhu Chuan immediately replies, yes, okay. But she adds that she has something important to tell him. But first I have to tell his girlfriend to get out of here with this girl. He clarifies in confusion, she listened to them the whole time, didn't she? If she wants them to work well in the future, she shouldn't use such dirty tricks. He agrees, okay, she'll take care of it next time. After Zioking heads out, Chuan turns to Wai Na, would she like to take a walk with her? But she immediately hugs him and replies that she doesn't want this. Zhu Chuan tries to convince her and notes that if she shows good behavior, he will cook her something delicious later. Ling Zioking chuckles jealously after hearing this. Na is already saying it louder, she doesn't want to. Along with these words, she begins to study the purple lights. Anyi seeing this exclaims in confusion, what is happening? Chuan gives up and tells Wai Na, okay, if she doesn't want to, then she doesn't have to go. Yi is shocked and wonders if this terrifying power really came from the girl. When she goes inside, Zhu Chuan asks if she can stay. He thinks she won't understand anything now, since she's a child. Yi, sitting down opposite her, asks him to think carefully if she listens to their dialogue. Then after that, she will be under their strict supervision. In addition, she must know whether she can be trusted 100%. He, stroking Nay on the head, agrees, okay, then first, he will tell them who she is. He hopes when the time comes they won't be too surprised. But suddenly a man's voice is heard. It seems that everyone is already here. A blonde man, accompanied by 2 strong men, enters the room and introduces himself. He is Captain Chen Ping, and the 2 behind him are his colleagues. The one with the hood is Wen Tao, and the one with the flat head is Wu Pun. Chuan shakes Ping's hand and says that Anyi told him some of what happened earlier. Now they must tell him what he does not yet know. Chen Ping says with a bright smile, it seems that he is already aware of everything. Well then, he will skip the formalities. He is sure that the guy already knows about the existence of superhumans in their world. According to the division of power, they are divided into 5 levels: 3rd level, 2nd level, 1st level, super disaster. By the way, all members of their squad have super level strength so far. Zhu Chuan, wary, clarifies for now. What does he mean? Pin, adjusting his glasses, answers, forces exceeding the level of disaster can pose a threat to the world. Therefore, as soon as someone of disaster level or higher appears, the state sends them all to suppress it. Overall, it's good for the world that they don't show such great powers as long as these mutants don't get in the way. Chuan, now openly nervous, exclaims, what is the division of power above the level of disaster? What is the power behind the dragon groups? What about the so-called hidden clans and their relations with the West by the West? Pin extends his hand forward and motions for him to stop. Then notes that he has so many questions, each of them related to the main secrets. First, he must answer the previous questions. He also adds that he did a little research on the way here. He checked the databases and immigration registries of the magical city and could not find any information about the identity of this girl. This means that she doesn't even have a genetic chip. This doesn't happen in their time, so is she like that too? Zhu Chuan, patting her on the back, explains that she is not from this world. In Complete World, he had a meeting with her. He fought with her in the temple to obtain the inheritance of the gods. She is the goddess guarding the Great Hall and a very formidable rival. He gave it his all, and in the end, when he woke up, she was already next to him. Chen Ping is confused and asks again, in other words, she is a god from another world. He never thought this could happen. Chuan adds, and from what he's seen, it seems like she changes every time she expends energy. First she was in the form of a young girl, and now this little girl with a different personality and different characteristics. Pin, adjusting his glasses on his face, which are covered with sweat from excitement, replies that he understands. It would seem that this is another step towards the merging of worlds. Then later he turns to Yi and orders her to contact headquarters and report the situation. She salutes him and exclaims, exactly. Now Chen Ping reaches into the inner pocket of his jacket and announces that regarding the questions that the guy asked earlier, he will now answer them. The strongest member of open clans strengthens, so to speak, by refining the Kai, where those who do not have the qualifications of refining Kai are distributed among already existing clans. Over time, they evolved into the various clans that exist today. The forces behind their dragon faction are actually the 3 elders of the hidden clans in the magical city. These are Chuan, Murong, and Nanli respectively. As a result of the merging of worlds, ordinary aliens are created, the upper limit of whose strength can only reach the super level. And the only ones who can possess power above the calamity level are Kai refining cultivators. Cultivators above the calamity level are divided into acquired, innate, perfected, Kai refining level cultivators, great foundation cultivators, true golden tribute masters, exalted ones, transfigured gods and ancestors. This time they are here. In addition to bringing him into the Dragon Squad, they are also checking to see if the guy is qualified to refine Kai. While Chuan lays the sleeping Waina on the sofa, Ping sits down at the table, places a relief disc with the image of the sun in the middle on the surface, and continues, if this is confirmed, then he will be able to join the 3 great clans. Chuan, sitting down next to him, replies that he understood that, but what about the killers from the west? Chen Ping corrects him, does he mean purifiers? And he need not worry too much about them. They believe that the eastern powers are the source of the disasters of this world. The original plan was to use them to suppress or even destroy the magical city by seizing the resources of another world. It's because the guy showed too much in that world, that's why they want to come and kill him. The strongest of them, the Hand of Hell, is actually no better. As long as he has the hidden clan as a sponsor, they probably won't be able to harm him. That's almost all that can be said, so now Chuan should put his hand here. Chuan obediently places his hand on the disc, causing it to glow green. Chen Ping continues to speak. The cultivation qualifications are divided into 8 qualifications: mortality, spirituality, heavenly, emperor, saint, god, and immortal. Suddenly, a bright glow spreads from the disc in all directions of the room, and Ping. Can't be. Suddenly, the glowing disc cracks, and Chuan, confused, asks, what is this? What's happened? Chen Ping notes contentedly, this compass cannot withstand his strength, but his qualifications must be at least holy. Some old men from the hidden clans would rather have a genius like him die than be handed over to the 3 great clans. The next moment he leaves with his colleagues and adds that the guy must quickly contact the 3 great clans and ask them to send experts to meet with him. Finally, Ping turns around and, pointing his finger at Chuan, exclaims he must remember, for his own safety, he better not leave here until they come for him. When the door closes, Chuan is left standing in the middle of the room, confused, and asks, did they just leave? At this moment, Waina's voice comes from the sofa, and she sits up straight, rubs her eyes, and wonders, is it lunchtime? He looks at her in shock and says, it seems her appetite is getting bigger and bigger. What? Why does it seem to him that she has become even smaller? But after he loses the back of his head, he announces that they ate almost everything that was at home. Okay, he will ask Ling Xiaoqing to go to the store and buy something. After a while, when she comes with bags of snacks, Chuan sits next to her on the floor and tells everyone about it. All of them in the Laziness clan had to pass the Kai proficiency test, right? What qualifications does she have? Xiaoqing replies thoughtfully, she doesn't remember well, but it seems she was a saint. As soon as he hears this, he exclaims, is she a saint?